bandwidth on my phone for for recording videos. So I was trying to make a semi low key epic video to bow out with some of the type of comments that I make on the channel. And then as I was making the first video, it tapped out. So I just want to begin this with the disclaimer and my safe getaway for my own live and stuff, and just say that I'm making this live to because I'm out of bandwidth on the phone. um that's a look for anyone that wants to do like content creation or anything original. Is the more authentic you can be, it's going to come through in your voice, and it's going to lend itself to what you can think of, and what you can land is how congruent you are to your real lived experience. That goes for anyone and anything. But I was just making a little video. I might It's only about 4 minutes. I might upload it, but I was saying that in that video I was referencing that I've made a couple intentions to land the ship of this channel in terms of like the body of work. Because like I put like on this channel, I put like a lot of like what I think are original thoughts and stuff like that. But it's not the greatest look to be like keeping it real all the time online when people ain't asked you to keep it real about something. The only people that really appreciate you keeping it real are like when someone nobody, people don't give a damn about what you have to say, good, bad, or ugly, especially people with authority and things going on in their life. But you get your ass in enough trouble, and the people with authority want to know, no, no, what really happened? No, I want to hear. No, yeah, tell me the real thing. No, no, we want the real story. What actually happened? What happened here? What was some? I need to know what happened here. And so the only time people are interested in keeping it real is when your ass is in trouble. And then when you start to proceed to deign to assume to keep it real, and someone ain't asked you to, now you're gonna get your ass in trouble. And so, okay, it's good you're in the habit of keeping it real. Good, good you're keeping it real because your ass is in trouble. But have you been having thoughts of this and that? So you're gonna get your ass in more. So real is for being in trouble. Trouble is real trouble. But so I make like I try to make real content and stuff like that. But it's not the best look for anyone to be popping up online and this and that. Hey, I just popped up to keep it real. But just for the type of content. But I think I can nearly summarize and complete the channel based on I had a conversation with my father today, and he has sometimes his short I haven't appreciated him as not having anything of strong memory. But he quoted to me a conversation that I had with him a couple of days ago. He's like, "Man, someone said something really cool. I think it was on YouTube, this and that. But I don't know where I heard that from, but I had told him that." And so I thought that that might actually be a good thing, and that's what I wanted to land with this channel. But like along the line of what I had been talking about with him is that um or where I'm coming up to is that I've made a couple references on this channel to ending the damn channel. And but sometimes like the things that you do in your life, the realest things, even the simple things, you don't get all the way there in one go. So whoever you are, the better parts of you, the worst parts of you, you didn't get all the way up there in one go. But and so that's a lesson in itself. But even if you wanted to complete something, you may not actually, you want to do like a grand finale. So the grand finale, the end of the fireworks show, it's not one fire. That'd actually be cold if it was one fireworks show. Da 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 is the regular fireworks show. Then pop that shit over right there. That would be deeper because it's just quiet like the whole like you didn't know there's about to be a loud firework in there, right? Just like beautiful purple, green, green, purple, green, purple, yellow, red, 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 purple, blue, yellow, green, yellow. They're deep like that. Pop, 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 then pop. No qualification, no disclaimer. That shit over. You could think about that shit. Damn, I wasn't thinking about that one. How would that leave you? But the grand finale, it's actually a few of them. It's a lot of them. It's like pop, 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 pop. So you can tell it's getting ready to be over. But that's also the same thing with like what we do. So like, I would imagine like it's kind of like if you play that game of solitaire. You play the game of solitaire, and you're like at the end, you can tell you're starting to win with this shit. Like it's like, yeah, that's clicking. Oh shit, I'm about to win this shit. It's like it's clicking, it's clicking, it's clicking. A lot of them, and then ba 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 ba, it's over. So like sometimes like even if you wanted to make so there's a word called pen ultimate. Pen ultimate is like next to ultimate. So the last firework in a firework show, the last one would be the ultimate firework. Whether it's the best or not, it's the last one. It's the ultimate. That's what you're saying, ultimate. So if you say, "Hey man, this person is the ultimate," that means their ass is dead and over because they're the ultimate. But then before the ultimate, that's the penultimate. Penultimate means, so like you have like the greatest series, like the best episode of the series. Like I'm from New Mexico. I grew up in a cool ass place in New Mexico. I may have actually grown up. I'm gonna be one and say I may have actually. So New Mexico is one of the coolest places of all time. I'm gonna say that, but it's not cooler than any other place. But it's one of the coolest places of all time. New Mexico is. Albuquerque is a cool place too. It's funny because my brother was born in Albuquerque. I wasn't born in Albuquerque, but I went there when I was like entering kindergarten. My brother was born in Albuquerque, and then he got his first job in life in his late 20s, which had been my job. No, no, I'm sorry. He got his first job in life back because he had been a PCA briefly. Then I was a PCA for like 6 years, and then I stepped down from that to become a CDL. But we had a chronically ill family member, and when my brother got his job back, I went with him to the office because I knew the ins and outs of that. I had me a little bit of a name around that PCA office and the industry here because I had mobility with the vehicle, and I had always had respect I had respect for people in life, right? One of the ladies I served there, I had so you when you spend that much time with somebody, 5 6 hours at a time, cleaning up after them, chilling with them with the TV. But while we're chilling with the TV, hey man, you mind picking this up for me over there? Stuff like that. Let me end this bogus call, and hopefully I don't end it live. Okay, so um and you don't become an actor without some bogus actors being around you. So there had been a bogus actor popped up on my phone. So you know you're gonna be an actor when you see some bogus actors pop up. But I was having me a name around like the PCA work because I one of the main things is because like when you got a PCA, right? So there's a couple people serve the same client. When your ass is out of there, they can see how well you did and didn't clean based on the shit you left behind or the shit you did. So it's not that hard to say, look at this sitting right there. Let me take a picture of that. Let me show the manager. Oh, and then the manager, even because sometimes the actual you don't know who be the real manager there, because like that place, I worked there for like 3 or 4 years, and then um so I just tapped out. I think that was a bogus actor, but it was a local number. It might be a lady that I had gave her my phone number, and I forgot that she might actually call me back. But now I'm just giving myself a pat in the back. While I'm giving myself a pat in the back. But so that thing I'll work in like with the PCA is that sometimes you don't know that you be around people with rank, right? You don't actually know what somebody rank is in this life, such as there's this one nurse, right? So I work as a PCA, right? And when I went there, that I met like the management, right? You got the real head honcho in charge. He don't say too much of nothing to nobody, except for when they're training you on like the congruence of like you. So like he don't say nothing the whole time. You know his ass is important. So like a lot of people like they think that oh man, you're about as dumb as a monkey. Oh, you're like a gorilla. But if you actually met someone with real rank in this life, they actually remind you a little bit of a gorilla. If somebody might know what I'm talking about. Like I went to a church, right? This church was an awesome it if you I went to the Living Word in Minnesota. I don't mean to be religious with that or name drop them in this life because they actually have a real name and they're really about that name that they say on there. And so I don't mean to just be referencing them lightly, but there's a person there and his name was Apostle, his Apostle Les. And he was as great as that name. Some of the lessons, the opportunities that he made, because I had opportunities there as a young man in high school, come in there and he would a lot of people would be like, oh man, that's janky. Someone just walked past your life. But if you actually knew who that was, walk past, that's the actual master that just walked past me. If you knew what he did with art, that's the actual master. So the way you know you got a master is they got masters popping in and behind them. But that's another example that you don't know people rank when you see them. You would have just thought that's just like a regular nobody walked past. Oh, look at this dude got people in the background. But that's not to flex, but in the vein of this content, that's another master that just walked past right there, or that's a master. But this man less like that. He made opportunities for the local Twin Cities because he would change the future and outcome of at-risk youth. And a lot of times, people that are at risk, they don't know they're at risk, and the community doesn't know they're at risk. And no, nothing in this life know that they're at risk until their risks become real. So he made opportunities for people at risk like that, and it changed my life. But when you see somebody with that much of talent, that much of self possession, that much of learning, that much of rapport in the community, they actually remind you a little bit of a gorilla because it reminds you of like a silverback gorilla, how they carry themselves, whether they mean to or not. So it's like, yeah, man, you're about like a gorilla. Hell yeah, man, that's what the gorilla look like. That's what the silver the see we have clothes on, so you can't see the white the silver back of people. But sometimes the actual real person, they remind you of like a gorilla, like the way that it would remind you of a gorilla. If you see the most talented of person, it may actually remind you of like a monkey because monkeys are they have sophisticated communication and problem solving skills that's more way more deeper than we give them credit for. But if you actually met so to me the most talented person would actually remind you of a monkey on some level because that's what we had been and that's what we become like when we become the best of ourselves. The person with the most pull in an environment, they'll also remind you of a gorilla a little bit because that's what a person gets to be when they come back into what really having power is. But then I would be at this care agency, and I remember when I got trained in there, there was a man there, and he didn't say nothing to nobody. He was he didn't say nothing. He was having gravity like that. But then the only time he has anything to say is like, yeah, just make sure that you keep it real up in these jobs because if you don't keep it real, the shit is gonna come like he was basically I'm gonna say it more in humorous terms. If you've ever seen the film Casino, right? The film Casino is a beautiful you could watch the film Casino 100 times and you could learn something new on the 101st time. 101 Dalmatians, no, watching Casino 101 times would teach you not to do wrong shit like mess with Dalmatians or anything wrong. A casino will teach you that. But at the end of casino, that shit start to come apart, right? They're making money cool, right? That's the thing. Corruption might be the funnest way to make money because you don't get too much of tired doing it and you don't get your hands too dirty. But the thing is that it's not all the way good to go at the foundation. So, however high you build the highest skyscraper, the skyscraper of corruption could likely, if you made a skyscraper based with the money that came from, but also the principles of corruption, it would likely stack up to be higher than the Sears Tower, than the Empire State Building, and whatever I think your current tallest building might be in Asia somewhere. I'm not saying that in order for them to build up something that tall they would have had to use some kind of corruption to be able to afford that shit. That's another conversation. But if you actually did something based on corruption, the principles of it, it would likely stack up higher than that building. But also, that shit would come down at one point because they likely didn't get all the way to building the foundation right if they're doing it corrupt or with the principles of corruption, which would also be save money on the foundation. So that's how shit will come down if it had been corrupt. So that's what the head honcho at this care agency explained to us. He's like, he never said nothing, but when it came to this one topic, he pop in and say, make sure your shit ain't corrupt so your shit don't come down like that shit in the casino shit. And we have to clean up that shit. And it also don't look good for us and shit, but it also don't look good for the rest of your ass that's now compromised because you had did that corrupt shit. That's what he said. So you knew what he was about just by seeing him. And then there was another woman in there. She was, I think she had a beautiful name, a name you don't normally see a lot. And she was just like professional as professional. Like we're learning about like healthcare and stuff and she was just like she was just making sure like this is the training and make sure you go over the training and also you need to have your training done your yearly continuing education credits you need to have them done by New Year's Eve no later than 11:59 then 59 seconds on the 59th minute of the 11th hour of the last hour of the year make sure you have them all done by then otherwise the state apparatus is going to be aware of that and it may come down on you and a little bit of us and then you're going to be out of here and then we're going to have to replace you and it's going to cost money so stuff like that right so then like about like two so hey we just wanted to tap in with you it's now about a week before the end of the year and we know a lot of people are parting stuff but we just want to make sure you have your education credits in check right and make sure you do a little bit of this by this point and so these are the ones that are about the hard skills these are the ones that are she was on that so you knew who these people were that they were having rank like that, but you actually didn't know the real main head S. Honcho S. So like a yogi is a male yogi. A yogini is a female yogi. In some in what I've read about India, your female are the one that are the formidable and the one that are running this life. A family, a community, a life. It's your female that are of consequence. You can mess up around men. A lot of men will hand your ass to you when you mess up, but that you get to mess up or that you get to mess up again after having messed up, it'll be likely be a female has something to say about that from the Eastern thought. But I was working for this care agency for like at that time like 3 years, right? I'll have sometimes the nurses will come to my home because I'm taking care of a family member in my home. So you have a nurse come in your home. They're aware of the work you're doing for your family member. They're checking they're checking the facts about it, but they're also seeing your work. They're seeing from the horse. I'm not calling a family member horse, but they're hearing from the horse's mouth themselves how you're doing about things. This nurse will come up in my. There are several nurses, but one of them, she'll come up in my home. I'll see her at other homes, and then while she's in my home, she's like, this is what family is about. You guys are from Africa and you take care of your family just like in Africa. This is so beautiful. And you're in school while you're doing this. So I see your books here. You're in school and you're also self-educating yourself and you're taking care of your father while you're doing that. This is really beautiful. She's near about sitting near right next to my bed when she's saying that because I'm living with family at that point. Don't you know? I found out later that she owned the company. That's the company owner right there, all up in my midst. So that's kind of deep like that. That the king doesn't always dress like a king. Sometimes the king dressed like a nurse, and then in wintertime you didn't also know that that had been a nurse because they got a coat on. That's how you gotta be about life because the real boss man slash woman will be up right next to you and you didn't know it. What I meant to say is that I took my brother to get that job back when he was getting that, and I was passing it off to him, and he actually didn't know how to spell Albuquerque because he was born there, and he didn't know how to spell Albuquerque. But that's because when we were in Albuquerque, he was too little to be in elementary. But when I was in elementary, like kindergarten, the first word they taught us how to spell is our own damn city. They taught us how to spell Albuquerque. That's a doozy. Have a kindergartner can How many kindergartners do you know that can spell the word Albuquerque? All of us could where I was from, because where I was from, the mascot was actually unicorns. So you're actually listening to a trained unicorn, but not only trained, but trained as a child, because your training is deeper when you're a child. So I had been trained as a child as a unicorn among unicorns, and I had also been designated as a special unicorn to not to flex, but just for to get my point across. In a school in a cohort of unicorns, I had been isolated as a unique unicorn, that had been that they didn't always get along with the other unicorns. Although I was so much of well behaved in when I was in kindergarten that they were concerned about it. The teacher was like, he's a little bit too respectful. We're not sure if he's shy or if he's just respectful. It's because my dad had my ass scared because my dad's from Africa and he act like he's from Africa. So I was having the little best behavior of the special unicorns, and then also I got designated for a special group of unicorns to get training like in mathematics, as a unicorn like that. But all of us unicorns, the both the regular tier unicorns, the very special unicorns that can also be outcast because they're very well behaved among the other unicorns, but also they stand out to the teachers. But all of the unicorns, even the general unicorns, which are still unicorns in a constituent and cohort of unicorns that has been identified, selected, and also trained as unicorns to then go on to function through the other levels of education and then in life to be unicorns based on the prior foundation, but it's still essence that they had as unicorns. All of our ass could spell the word Albuquerque because that's the first word they taught us how to spell. But when I was growing, my brother didn't know how to spell where he had been come from Albuquerque. But all I meant to say is that Albuquerque is a very deep place. But in Albuquerque, that's also the home. So Albuquerque is dope. New Mexico is dope enough. Albuquerque is dope enough. But then within Albuquerque, I grew up in the student family housing. That's the SFH, student family housing for the University of New Mexico. So it was like a neighborhood where you had it was fenced off because it was in a now that so if it wasn't already dope enough that I'm at the student family housing in New Mexico, the UNM, which is a great school, it's on the street. They didn't know what. I think back then it had been Buena Vista. Where you from, fool? My neighborhood was a neighborhood for children, designed specifically for children on a street called Buena Vista. That's another beautiful name. I think now Buena Vista. That if that's not dope enough, so anyone out there that appreciates wine, that likes wine, your oldest wine house in California, I think it's actually called Buena Vista. I think that's one of the oldest wine houses in California. They sell a bottle of wine called Buena Vista. It's available. If you don't know nothing about wine, you know wine can be cool. Some people like wine, some people don't. If you lay your first, and I'm not trying to get nobody addicted on nothing, you lay your first sip of Buena Vista wine, and it's special. It don't take nothing like no other kind of wine. Buena Vista is like that. So that had been the street that I came from in Albuquerque, Buena Vista. But now there was another street that skirts it. It's where, so in Albuquerque you have like you have your zone for sports, right? Because Albuquerque back then they didn't have no professional sports, but you had a baseball stadium, the Albuquerque Dukes. You had the Lobos, it's called like a pit. It's a stadium. You walk in, the ground level is actually the nosebleeds. That's how dope. So what you guys call floor seats, that's what we call the nosebleeds in Albuquerque, because when you walk into the stadium, you're at ground level. That is ground level seats. Your ass up in the nosebleed because it go down like that. It's a pit, right? You know your ass is in trouble when the main show is down there. Yeah, we got something for your ass is down there. We got some. You're a player, yeah, you go down there, you're about to make an example of your ass down there. But they probably got to do that because Albuquerque is high as of elevation. You go to Albuquerque, right? You're the greatest runner, right? From wherever you're from, right? I dare you walk to do a couple laps in Albuquerque. You're gonna be falling out like you can actually die in Albuquerque. I had actually a great person from that neighborhood where I'm from. A father passed away young because he was running in Albuquerque. He had visited overseas and he came back for a run and he actually fell out. The altitude is actually not a joke in Albuquerque because it's the best for training. Like a lot of your people, right? Some of your great. I'm not gonna name drop people, but who is considered the goat of MMA? This person has a blemish on their record because they over won. The only reason they have a blemish on their record is because they over won one fight. They had their elbow, their arm was at an angle that was illegal in the sport. While they were in the process of a like a near flawless victory. So the only flaw in a flawless victory is if you don't have restraint. That's a deep lesson too, is that the what makes you great is actually restraint. So in the great of great, the flawless victory, if even if you're handing yourself a flawless victory, if you get too carried away with the flawless victory, now you don't have the perfect restraint. Now you actually failed. Now you're not unblemished like that. But the unblemished, the actual, for intensive purposes in lethality and convincingness, the goat of MMA trains and had trained in Albuquerque no less, and it's likely exactly because of the altitude. Because if you can do that shit, like I'm not gonna lie, if you can do something I met a person from Chicago, like when I was a young person, and I was at a library. I was hanging out at a library that has a gym in high school one day, and I bumped into somebody that was like I was a like a underclassman. This person was an upperclassman at the next school over. It had come from Chicago, and he was telling me that like the thing about Chicago is that if you can do something in Chicago, you can do it anywhere. So like a lot of people want to be tough. I'll imagine if you can be tough in Chicago, you can be tough anywhere. But also if you can play basketball in Chicago, like we know some people have played basketball in Chicago, you can play basketball anywhere. And if you're the best in Chicago, you might be best in the world. And I don't think nobody can argue that as basketball goes with Chicago and basketball, like in the number 23 and stuff like that. But and so I actually seen the only time the number 23 once came to Albuquerque when I was at school. There was a kid we grew up. He was the coolest kid in the neighborhood. He couldn't help but be cool. And his grandparents had gave him like a present that was like nothing but confetti. It looked like they had stiffed their own grandson for his present. But then he looked in there. It had been a ticket to see number 23 come to play in Albuquerque in the pit. But the only reason I reference that is because you get to the pit and then you got to go down. That might be because of the altitude. So Albuquerque's already high enough. If you were going up at all, your ass probably die with the altitude. So they probably got to get it down there so that people come through Albuquerque can survive their game, that they don't die and shit. So we got to get these ass a little bit of breather. So we got to put them down a little bit because the regular 4 level Albuquerque kill somebody ass. We got to put them down there. But I'm just being a joke with that. But that was that the Duke Stadium, the Albuquerque Dukes. That's like a I think they're affiliate of the Dodgers in LA. So they would be like a farm for the Dodgers in LA back in the day. The Dukes would be. Then you had the Lobos in the University of New Mexico. Their team is the Lobos. They'll play at the pit. But then when professional venues come to Albuquerque, they play at the pit. That's that deep one. Then you also got the football stadium there. I forget what it's called, but they're all within a block, those three. But then those are also within two. So our apartment, student family housing, was up on a hill on a street. It was a block off the street up on a hill. You go down that street like a S, and you got those stadiums right there. Ba ba ba, three of them. But that street it had used to be called Stadium, but then they changed it to Avenida Cesar Chavez. If you know who Avenida Cesar Chavez is, you know how great of a name that is. Right there next to intersect perpendicular Buena Vista, which is the greatest wine house in California, and then that also sit on SFH, UNM SFH, student family housing. So the student family housing is a beautiful place with history because it's right there in central Albuquerque, but you couldn't have a neighborhood like that with that many children and families without some form of gating. So I actually knew the woman. I had there's a girl that I would play with when I was young. I didn't exactly get along with her, but I knew her, and her mother was responsible for them sequestering that neighborhood with a fence back there. It was like a prominent fence, but it was big enough to so people get the idea that you don't come through there on bullshit. And so we grew up without a lot of bullshit, even though we're in a place that could or could not be rough. You can't say what any place is or isn't because a place is different based on how you're inclined in life. But that could have been different growing up around there if you didn't have that dynamic like that. But it was a beautiful neighborhood because one is that it's very international because university any city you would go to, likely the university is going to be one of the most diverse places there, both in terms of ethnicity but also like interest in talent and background. You have an interesting mixed multitude motley crew of geniuses and people that got their act together at a campus in general, but especially a family campus like that. We actually had a very diverse upbringing there because you would have all the people of the Southwest. You'd have your Native American brothers and sisters, your American brothers and sisters, African American, people of any background in life, the local that would be fed by the local community, but also the broader national community and the international community. The best of all that will exactly likely end up right there where the university is because they would have some interest in being around a university. But then you have the children that are coming from those kind of homes, so they're already beautiful children based on they're coming from beautiful people, but also they would be having different experiences inside the home and then next to one another in that community. So I was privy to that, and I just want to give a little bit of background with that. But one of the people that we bumped into there was a member of the show Breaking Bad. So one of the interesting, probably if you watch, I'm not going to name drop the person, but if you watch the show Breaking Bad, one of the most interesting characters on that show. Now that show Breaking Bad is the bad. So Breaking Bad is about a bad ass, a person growing into becoming a badass. It's interesting because Albuquerque is a lot about learning and science. If you know about New Mexico, New Mexico is a lot about science. Like there's a lot of really cool stuff to do with science that you would know about and not know about in New Mexico. Both like above board, like things that would be like recognized, like opportunities and gatherings of learned people, but then also stuff that's off the books, as in Roswell, as in like the stuff the type of where would you go looking for an alien if you had to? You'd go likely to uh, somewhere around the Southwest that is maybe 50, something about 51 or Roswell. But that's what you know about. There's probably the real Roswell you probably wouldn't know about the real area something you probably wouldn't know about it, but it'd likely be underground like that. So New Mexico has a lot of great science stuff above the ground and likely under the ground. But damn, I got on a sidetrack with that. But um, so Breaking Bad is about the badass of badass, the badass scientist, but also the badass. So where would you find the badass scientist and the badass? You would go ostensibly you would stage that in New Mexico, that is Albuquerque, the setting of the show Breaking Bad. They had gone looking for there. But where would you go looking for the talent of the actors to be on the badass of the badass? Maybe also Albuquerque. So a lot of the characters on the show Breaking Bad, I think that, and I know that at least one was from Albuquerque because I had grown up around the person in Albuquerque, and so I likely a lot of the characters, but of that whole show, that whole show, the badass show, right? The Breaking Bad badass show. There's one character on there that you know they're a badass without them saying too much. And that character, I grew up with that character, and I knew he was a badass when we were kids. Like he was actually on my team as a kid, and like for like sports like basketball, and I knew he was a badass back then, but he was already like doing badass stuff with Hollywood back then as kids. But what I meant to say is that show, right? So the badass show, right? The Breaking Bad show. If you were watching a show like a series show, that show's a series show, right? That show got you by that's a cliffhanger, right? It got you by the seat of your chair, right? It got you by the balls, right? It got you by your balls hanging off the seat of your chair on a cliffhanger, and you don't know you're glad you got off that chair. You had that show had you worry about something. It had you by the balls by the seat of your chair, right? But what would be the dopest the near about the dopest episode. Now that show, it was already hellified, but it started to get more hellified than hellified at the end of it. By the end of that show, I think that was like around like 2000, 2013. Like I didn't grow up watching that show. I didn't watch television when I was grown and shit. When I was grown and shit, that series it first started like in like 2007, and I wasn't keeping up on it, but I knew it was about. But then one of my friends, I got back up with one of my friends, like one of these interesting people you would have to meet with growing up. This friend I had, he was as interesting as that show when we were kids. Like he didn't have nothing to do with that show, but like we grew up together. But his dad and my dad, they were cool and shit. They were like some of the main ones having a modem, like emailing and shit, doing internet and shit. We would be at two different parts of this complex, the SFH complex, and his daddy and my dad would be sending each other messages online and shit before people knew about outline and shit with a modem and shit, because they were cool and shit like that, and they were ahead of their time and shit. But his son was also cool like that, and he didn't actually get along with me in life. Like we didn't, like sometimes you're not actually you're real friends and shit. You're not actually really, you don't like hit it off with them like, oh wow, we're good friends right now. Fuck you, man. I'm over here, man. Your ass is over there, man. Fuck you, man. That's how you actually start out with your best friends. But then you get to a party, like your parents bring you to a little get together, like at a restaurant on the other side of town. It's like, man, fuck that. I can't stand that dude. Wait, your ass is here right now? Why are you here right now? Oh, that's your dad? I knew his dad was, but like, oh damn, our dads are cool and shit. Hey man, this place is kind of whack, huh? Yeah, man. But that waiter, she's hot over there, huh? Yeah, man. And then so you get to being cool with your nemesis and shit because your parents are cool and shit. But he was cool like that. But he wasn't just being cool like me like that because he had to. But then I met some of his friends too. Like he would have his friends buzzing around. So like that Breaking Bad character, he actually didn't live there, but he'll be buzzing around some of the cool ass kids and shit because he was related to them and shit. But then my friend and shit that I didn't always get along with originally and shit, he'll also have some cool ass friends from the community, and they'll be interested in this place because it was cool. Like they actually couldn't get their ass in because there'd be a fence around it, but they were cool with that other dude, and then they'll be around. And but they were actually cooler than shit too, and I'll be cool with them because of him like that. But they kind of didn't exactly get to belong being around there because they had a fence. But there would be some reasons to be in that community because there'd be some beautiful girls in like a beautiful basketball court. It was just a cool place to be. But that friend, just to show you how cool he was, he moved away to Tennessee, the eastern part of Tennessee, but then he'll still be coming back a little bit. Later in life, I moved to the western part of Tennessee. That's a interesting, like, that we would both be there on academic pretenses because his father was recruited to Tennessee for academics, and my father was too once they became professional academics. But when he was a little kid, he'd be sending me letters from Tennessee and shit. And he's like, we became pen pals just to show you how were you really friends with someone? If we were pen pals, we'd have to be cool with each other. But he'll send me these little letters, and he's like, it's kind of cool because you can't read this and shit. You gotta hold it up to a mirror. So he'll send me a letter, but you can't actually read it by looking at it. You gotta hold it up to a mirror, and now you can make sense out of it looking at a mirror. That's how dope that's the type of people I grew up with. But then when we were grown, he'll always have him he'll always have him he's one of those everyone they have a couple friends. They always have them. I'm the type of person where you bump into me in life. I always had a way of making money, right? You ain't seen me in this many years, but you also ain't seen me without a job or a way to make money. Not the best job, not the flyest job, always necessarily at the same time, but I always had me just a little cool ass way to make sure I got money in my pocket, right? So right now, I got me a couple of dollars in my pocket, right? I ain't balling like that, but I got me a couple of dollars in my pocket, and my ass ain't seen a job in about a week because I got booted off a delivery platform. I was doing deliveries like on a bicycle, on a bicycle. I was doing deliveries all day long on a bicycle, because I had some other shit going on. And then I get up to, I was like, damn man, where would you do deliveries in the middle of the night, right? For me, that'd be like by the local college campus, right? But this college, I'm not gonna flex, but this college ain't quite as cool as the college I grew up around. Some of the people there, cause like I was doing deliveries and like this delivery, I'm busting it on a bike, right? You see a brother pull up on a bicycle and shit doing a delivery and shit after getting lost because some you can't always find address on a college because they're hard to find. So I'm getting my ass lost on a bicycle. So you're getting lost, but you're doing work to get lost. I get there where they're supposed to be, but they ain't been when when they were supposed to be there, and now they're pissing shit after I brought the delivery on the bike and their ass weren't where they're supposed to be. And I think they dropped me a little reference, a little review, and it got me off a platform and shit. But I still have money in my pocket and shit to this day because I had been stashing away like cool ass books and stuff like that. Whole when I was working, I would never blow my money on nonsense. So I bought cool books and shit. And then so when I get my ass in trouble, I can take some cool books to the actual the local half price book. The coolest book I ever found in this life was Arthur Avalon. I had found it in a used bookstore, and that's a cool way to make money when you're in hard times. Is that you bring back? There's a lot you can do anything you want in life, right? I ain't judging nobody about nothing because that make me a judge, and nobody likes a judge, not even their wife. I had learned that from Osho. I think he said something like that. A judge. If you're really a judge, you got to be a judge even around your wife, and it ain't always cool. Maybe it could be kinky. I don't know. Like, is that something anybody do? Like role play with the judge and shit. So do you role play as a defendant against a judge, or a wife's a judge's wife with a judge as an actual judge's wife with a judge? Is that still role play, or would that be kinky, or would that be kind of like kind of like is that so? Is that a mood killer, or is it kinky to be a defendant with a judge, and or a judge's wife slash mistress slash wife slash defendant with a judge, and that's your real predicament? I don't know if that's a mood killer, if that's kinky, but to each their own cup of tea. But you do something wrong with books and your ass is bogus like that. You discard books in a half-ass way, or you efface books, or you deface books, or you ruin books, and your ass is bogus like that. I think because there could be someone long from now, or even now, that could benefit with that, and they could have actually benefited with that book. So that shit is bogus. Like, a lot of things are atrocities, but whatever would be done around books, like say, I think they have discarded, or maybe confiscated some of the old books around, I think, like they say, the Library of Alexandria. That would have to do with like Egypt and Kush. There's another word for Egypt. The real name, I don't know that off the top of my head, but some of those books, they were either destroyed and or concealed from the public lexicon of knowledge, and such as we don't have access to them, and that's just kind of heinous, because that could be, so, like, according to Osho, he was a what you call Osho was so he was iconoclast. He would go up against your your sacred cows of traditions, but he would also lean into them and borrow from them. He was eclectic. Osho was spiritually and academically and socially and politically eclectic, and he made no bones about that, because he said that I'm a human being. Other people who have done great things for themselves, but also for other human beings, are human beings. So I make no bones about borrowing from what has been furnished of value. As so Intellect, ideas are value par excellent, because you can create and manage and retain any other form of value based on ideas in the first place. Ideas are the first form of value. I'll be one to say that ideas are the first and maybe second and last form of value, are ideas in themselves. And then so to Osho, anything that's of value, that is ideas that has been rendered by human beings, are his to appreciate and lean into and improvise on, and and bring on, appropriate, and discard, as is ethical, as is respectful, as is humane, as is appropriate for him as a fellow intellectual and learning. That was his standpoint, Osho, and I like that what he had to say about that. But so these ideas, like say Alexandria, Egypt, if they have like one is that I think they defaced like certain monuments in Egypt that would reveal the Afrocentric nature of some of the facial features on those pyramids. That is the foundation. That's actually fiat right there. That's according to Tashriq Bey, Grand Sheikh Tashriq Bey. I'm not saying Grand Sheikh as though I ascribe to that, as though I'm part of his political persuasion, or that I owe it deference, or that anyone watching this owes it deference. But the man's name is Grand Sheikh, and so I'll refer to him by his proper name. But I'm not saying that as a member of that. But I'm just saying the man's name is Grand Sheikh. He can speak to a lot better what had been and what would be the name for Egypt, and then how what became of some of that learning. Then also he can speak to the correspondence between Egypt and America, where in so you have Memphis, right? Memphis is very Egypt sounding. You have the so I was talking about the Pitt Stadium in Albuquerque. In Memphis, you have the pyramid in Memphis. That you would have a pyramid in Memphis. That Memphis would be called Memphis. That's reminiscent of Egypt, and there's much deeper there than you. It's in plain sight. That's in your face. The name of Memphis and the pyramid, but it's in your face so much is that you wouldn't actually it wouldn't occur to you that something called Memphis could actually really have to do what's really also called Egypt. a pyramid could have really have to do, or just the history of the symbolism of why you would place it there, it could really have to do with what's called Egypt, that it would be there. But that it would be there, it's so unseeming to you that it actually would have to do with that, that it's better concealed like that. Grand Sheikh Tashri Bey would talk about that. But just such as that so what would be done, to but then the greatest mockery, but then when you destroy the features of the Sphinx like that, you are, not only is it disrespectful, highly disrespectful, because that's some of the a lot of people would say that Africa hasn't contributed to architecture or human understanding and philosophy. Your ass is as that could be probably the most bogus thing you could say, just based on the fact that the pyramids themselves, but then also the understanding that gave right, that would have to do with the engineering of the pyramids, but also wouldn't be far away from the pyramids. That changing, that one of the concealing of the understanding, but then the changing of the narrative, and how that would confuse people in thinking that Africa wasn't about engineering or learning, such as that we haven't seen anything very African as engineering, except for the greatest of engineering, which is also the pyramids, which is also the monuments, which also bear the African features. So you change that narrative, and then you also change the understanding of the people that the world over who have had different education, that's deprived of the actual example of the Sphinx with its original features, and then also the learning that would attend that. You deprive them from all that. They go on like that. They fuck themselves over. They fuck over one another based on many different misunderstandings at the foundational level, including the misunderstanding of African societies, African contributions, the African knowledge, not either not knowing that or being confused about that, but then anything else you would learn that's also part of such a structure. Then also your representative currencies and your dealings that are also from a foundation of miseducation, but then also the actual representation of the currency is a misrepresentation also, because you can't have money that's not money and not attached to things also. All of that together is fiat according to Tashriq Bey, and I just wanted to point that out as I'm on that tangent. But what I was saying is that but so the cliffhanger of cliffhangers, the badass, the location of the badass, the feeding farm of actors for badassery, Albuquerque. What would be the most interesting about Albuquerque, the show about it, would be like not the last episode, the ultimate, because the ultimate is like, yeah, man, this thing is fiction, right? So we need to know what happened to, we need to know what happened at the end of the fiction series. But even the last episode, it's still kind of fiction like that. But the second to last episode, now that's that shit, because it's like, damn, this shit is fiction. But what are they about to do? Where are they taking us with this shit? That's the penultimate. But then before the, so you have the ultimate is the last, the penultimate is the second to last, the anti penultimate is the third to last, the anti penultimate I think would be the fourth to last. So you can go on and on like that. So maybe the however many shows they had in Breaking Bad, the first of which, maybe you could also say that the fourth to last would be the pre anti penultimate would be the fourth to last. Maybe the fifth would be the pre anti pin out ultimate would be the fifth to last. The sixth might be the anti pre anti wait the anti pre anti anti penultimate. That might be like the sixth. So you can go on and on like that. Another one like that, just to tell you the type of half-ass pretentious shit I say to people in life to get better at this half-ass pretentious shit that I say, is like, so you go up to someone and you're like, so do you actually know what the longest word in the English dictionary that you can spell that's still part of the English dictionary is? Do you know that? Like if you were trained among unicorns, you would know that, because our in fifth grade we had to write dictionary where the best you train a child well, they shall not depart from it. So my fifth grade teacher was a little bit something of a sadist, and I actually want to do a little bit about sadism and as teachers go with this. And I'm joking about that, but it actually does affect the socializing and the thought process of a lot of adults. They don't appreciate how the power dynamics between their very teachers. I'm not saying egregious teachers, but I'm saying teachers that are in the habit of enjoying being teachers, and the experience of that for people. And then people's experience with other people in life having been trained like that. I want to talk about a little bit like that, but it had been differently in where I grew up in New Mexico, because you had some teachers from the real South back then. Like, so my teacher for fifth grade, the greatest teacher of my whole life, was my fifth grade teacher. I'm not gonna blast her name, but she had been so she had been from a military family in Louisiana, but she was also the wife of a military man in New Mexico, and so she had that kind of background. That's the kind of she was trained around. She grew up educated around military bases when she was a child. Then she also was the loving wife, the loving, respectful wife and mother to the child of a military man in Albuquerque. And then so she educated us like that's what her background was. And she didn't she was about that. She was about that teacher life. She was about that life as a teacher. And so in the morning, all of us in class will be quiet because we don't get to talk until we get done with our morning training, which is also dictionary words. I need you to write me the definition of some words. It don't matter what the words got to be. You choose the words, but I need you to look them up in a dictionary and give me their definition and then use them in a couple sentences before you get to talk today. That's what my teacher was about. So all of us, right? You had some of us were like self-style wannabe athletes. That my ass in there. You have some regular. Then you have some fly ass honeys in there, girls, age appropriate, that were in there. That a lot of us want to be rock stars, want to be athletes, will be in the habit of wanting to impress at recess. Then you have the actual ordinary kids that are just ordinary kids that also the girls actually like for being ordinary kids. You have them in there. None of our ass get to talk until all of us are in there cool, or regular, but cooler for being regular. All of us are in there. We actually don't get to talk until we get back. We report back with our words. But she was a beautiful teacher because my mom told me that my mom talked with her and she said that she would be a mean person, right? She's the type of person where if she could make a person cry by being mean. I don't know many like adults that would cry, but if somebody could make another person cry, another adult cry, I would imagine it'd be this teacher because she was that mean of a person. Not mean as in bad or wanting to hurt people, but she was just that another word for like being like efficient and like disciplined and competent is mean. So she was mean that way. But my mom told me that at the end of the school year, she would shout out. Someone said hi in here. What's up? Hi to anyone in here. One love. Thanks for checking me out. The greatest thing someone can tell you is hi. Like not hey, what's up? How's it going? Just hi, hi. That's the coolest thing right there. But this teacher, my mom told me that at the end of the school year, she would actually cry because she would miss because one is that the students were matriculating to middle school, so she wasn't going to be seeing us again in life. Mostly likely, most of us after having that much contact with us, exposure, teaching with us, all that, because you can't help but be attached to what you invest in, and she invested all that she could in us. But also military people, they're a little bit like a lot of times like if you learn about the East, they teach you the value of not being attached to things. But also military people, they have a little bit of that talent about not being attached to people because they know that anything in their life they're likely to have to come up off of it. Their family members, their possessions, their location, their memories themselves. A military person can have to come up off of that, and that's part of the training with military people is that they're not attached to things. But also, a lot of times in life, it's not good to be attached to things too much. But it has been said, like in the East, that the attachment between a soldier and their weapon, like a soldier and his rifle, this is your stand. I am a soldier. This is my rifle. I shall treat my rifle. They probably treat people and stuff like that, but actually, that's deeper because that rifle will keep you alive in things. They'll also have you have the courage to go into certain places with things. That's the only thing that's dear to you that can be dear to you. And if you treat a rifle the way you would treat something that you love, then you're going to treat a rifle right and it might actually work when you need it in trouble. So the attachment between a soldier and human beings and places is different in the first place, but also between a soldier and their rifle is different also. Me, I don't take after or take a liking to or wish to God to have to do anything with being a soldier, but for me it's similar with a musical instrument where that this is my guitar and I take it with me in life because that's the best way to be proficient with the guitar, but also to have a relationship with it to where it'll serve me when it'll need to serve me. But also it's something you could maybe say that for a soldier, the rifle it might be something of a companion and a habit and a hobby. And all if you can imagine your love interest, your hobby, your companion, your livelihood, your means of escape, your means of survival, all of that converge in a rifle for a soldier. But it's also similar with a musician. For me, as a guitar, that's what I learned. And you learn the guitar deeper like that, and maybe a rifle also deeper like that than you would. So sometimes people say like, how long have you been playing that? How long has a soldier been having to carry a rifle for that rifle to be the soldier's rifle. It wouldn't have to be 5 years necessarily. You get in boot camp. Boot camp is about long enough for you to get the basic competence with your rifle. That's probably the real outcome of boot camp is that you now know a little bit about what pain feels like as much as you can in within relative safety, and you're also proficient with your rifle while being in pain. That's what boot camp is, but that's also what being a musician is. Can you be comfortable with the instrument while you don't have shit, and also people mock your ass with and without the instrument, but even especially with the instrument, people mock your ass like that in public, but you still bear the instrument in public, and you're still having a little bit of connection with the instrument. Now you're actual real musician. It don't take more or less than that, and you enjoy the instrument too. It don't take more than that to be competent around an instrument. How long have you been playing the guitar? Fuck you. This is my guitar. I dare you to touch it, motherfucker. Fuck you. That should tell you how great of a guitar player someone would be. Hey man, oh that's a cool guitar. Is that a such and such? Can I tune it? Hey man, I don't know what the fuck it is because it's my guitar and shit. And fuck you too. And don't touch it, dude. Don't touch it. That's what a master guitar teacher player would sound like. But all due respect. Um but so but the anti penultimate have you on the seat of your chair like that. But then you go somewhere. What's the biggest word you can spell? The biggest word that I know of that had been when I was being trained at as a unicorn was anti disestablishmentarianism. If you're like from my mom's generation, they may have actually had someone called an anti. I think that had to do with like around the time of the protests, like the flower generation. Some of these like these half-ass manuals that affix arbitrary status caste designations to people along the lines of quasi scientific, general scientific, that is, statements applying to human beings to affect human beings' self image and also their traction of respect and rapport and identity and reputation in the community. They can all redouble into their competence and their standing and livelihood upon the objective of an outside bystander, whether they call themselves they're respected as professional or not. All that can exist, and it would be along the lines of like it might be a form of mental health. That might be a mental health diagnosis. It sounds like that to me. I don't know, but sometimes if you reason things, that's as good as anything else you would lean into as a reference. Your own reasoning is a better. It can be as much of a reference and a source as anything. Your reasoning can be if it's fleshed out like that. If you would dare to your mind, your reasoning, it can be the best implement, the best tool, because all tools and implements come from your mind. The best self-defense, the best way to avoid a situation, which is the best self-defense, and also the best way to overcome something or to understand something from within it would be your mind. I bet you, right? You go up into a prison and the prisoners are talking about this and that. Man, we got to get out of here, man. This place sucks. That probably a guard, a warden, they seen something like that, but they ain't seen a bunch of prisoners just quiet. Hey man, we got these new handcuffs and shit, right? We're gonna need you to bend over because we need to check something, and we also need to get these new handcuffs around you, right? Some prisoners, man, hey man, fuck you, man, that ain't right, man. You ain't touching me with that shit. But you got another prisoner that just look at that shit. They're figuring out what the hell you just put on them. That's gonna be a problem at one point. Not necessarily then. Anything you make is janky enough, right? You got the biggest, the best bus that's ever been designed. That's coming on the best streets that have been designed, right? But that bus driver's like, damn it, he's trying to get that bus, the best engineered bus, somewhere around that corner that's been designed by people. Anything being designed by people, it has a fail safe designed and intended and or not. It has limitations, it has redundancies, it has oversights, it has things that had been weak for being preconceived and weak for not having been preconceived and weak for being conceived by a human. All things that are human being have a limitation, try as you may, including things that are engineered. So any type of the newest handcuff apparatus, the newest prison system, the newest social system, the newest idea, it likely has a limitation. And if you do your due diligence to reason as a human being, you may come to it. And so that would be more daunting, would be this many, not a jailhouse full of people, full of revolutionists talking the revolution. That's not the biggest baddest thing. a jailhouse of quiet, contemplative, self-respecting, and also fellow-respecting revolutionists contemplating. That's deep right there. That'll give somebody pause. But so but so anti-establishmentarianism, that actually sounds like a older iteration of a diagnosis of like social control. But you can make that longer. You can say so anti-disestablishmentarianism. You could say anti-disestablishmentarianism. You could also say anti disestablishmentarianism type. So you could go all the way into forever spelling. You could spell words into forever, just making some combination of anti disestablishmentarianism or anti disestablishmentarianism. Now, if you wanted to go beyond infinity, so they say infinity is the symbol for it's that symbol that looks like an 8 is the symbol for infinity. I can spell a word that can't be contained in that symbol infinity simply as a self-styled half-ass wannabe street psychologist. One is that you say a combination of anti disestablishmentarianism, anti disestablishmentarianism. You can go all the way up to toe to toe. You can stand toe to toe with that forever symbol, just with that spelling. But then, if you want to go beyond forever, you spell that, and then you say type one. You went for beyond forever with that, or maybe then if you want to go beyond forever like that, you put a secondary placeholder anti disestablishmentarianism type 11. Now you just put another placeholder on that. So you went another digit out. If you want to go beyond that, you go anti disestablishmentarianism type 11A. You go on. So that's just bullshit like that. So I'm just fucking bullshit right here. But all I meant to say is like with the episodes is like the anti the ultimate episode is the last episode, but the anti no, I'm sorry, the penultimate episode in like a cliffhanger series might actually be more captivating, but it's still part. You can't have an ultimate without an anti, I mean, without a penultimate. The anti penultimate episode is probably even maybe a little bit more interesting than the penultimate episode. So what I want to say is that when you're doing something great, what I was referencing is that even or if you're completing something great, it might take a couple hacks at it till you get there. So I had done different videos on this series saying that I want to dial in the series, but then it'd be like, but damn it, I need to make a couple more videos like that to get my point across. So I want to say that just because someone say that they want to get off of something or they want to start doing something, like sometimes if you try to pick something up, that's called a what's the word for it? A Flaneur. I think that's called a flaneur. A flaneur is another word for a dabbler, right? So you got this one over here, and I don't mean to. Sometimes some words will get you. Some words will change somebody's. Some words are potent that they can change the entire tenor or something. The meaning, the way that something come across. Some words can do that in themselves. So I'm not gonna use that word because it could change this word, right? But you got this one that they want to be a practitioner or something, right? And they picked it up a couple times. They're dabbling in it. Like what would be more so what would be more of a dabbler than somebody that's dabbling in different forms of craft, right? They're dabbling in this form of craft. Like how much better of an example of a dabbler can you be? That's so this will get my point across, right? You want to be honest, get that shit out there, right? You want to be free, get that shit out there. You want to be someone that you now picked up witchcraft, right? You walked into a store, you bumped into a store, and you picked up a book about witchcraft. Right now, you brought home. Hey, what'd you bring home today? I don't know. I just picked up a book at the store. Oh no, let me see. Grandma's over here. Grandma wants. What's that you picked up? Let me see that. That's a big book. What you? Oh, it's no. It's just something I just picked it up. I don't really want to talk. No. Your grandma wants to see. What's that book you got there, honey? Oh, okay. Witchcraft, honey. You went to the store and picked up a book about witchcraft. The grandma, you didn't know you didn't know that their ass was on their last leg. Their ass already died over there. Their baby came home with a book about witchcraft. Their ass is dead now. So the book really worked. It killed their ass. No, I'm just joking, but that could take someone back, right? But this is 2025, baby. You can go into a bookstore now, baby. It's not illegal to buy a book about witchcraft now, baby. So they didn't do nothing wrong. They didn't do nothing outside of their, because you still have rights as a child, right? A lot of times we want to say, oh, the child is the most protected member of society. We don't want to do anything wrong to the child except for encroach on the child, because the child just came home with a book about witchcraft that they ethically, you gave them allowance, right? You probably underpaid them for an allowance, right? It's a miracle that they had some money on them somehow in this life, as much as it's stacked against them making money. But they got their hands on some money. They went into a used bookstore that some dipshit had offloaded some books there, and they chose that book. They chose a book about Wicca. That a better word than witchcraft would be Wicca, because witchcraft is like, some words are loaded terms. Is that one is that the etymology is skewed, so they don't know what they're saying when with the word itself. I think that the word witch, if I'm not mistaken, going back before the persecutions of the church, and also the imbuing, is part of persecuting people. The deepest way to do something is as a group, as a collective, right? You kick somebody out of a relationship with you, out of a household, that's bad enough. But you kick them out of a community, that's even more damning and punitive. It is so because it's a social initiative. So, but in order to do that, to kick someone out of a house, you need words, right? You can't just take somebody by the arm and throw them out, right? You need to say the right word, the combination of words, the not the magical, the anti-magical words. But you actually you need somebody to say the magical words to get in enough trouble to you to also say the magical words to get them out of somewhere. You kick them out. Hey man, you kicked them out of your house. You kicked out your own child. Do you know they said this to me? Oh shit, they said that to you? Nah, man, their ass is out. They need to be out. But it's the same thing with the community. You kick someone out of the community by using the right words, but you can't use the right words unless you use the right word. You must banish that one. Why are we banishing them? For they are now a witch. Had been a witch. Wait a minute. Are you sure that they are a witch? You say they are a witch, but are you certain that they are a witch? They are a witch, in fact, for they had confessed to be a witch. The other one, they didn't even say nothing. They just went and got the crew now, because that person said that that person's a witch, but that person was believable when they said that that one had confessed to being a witch. Now it's bad. So that word witch is that had been a killer word in the past. We have some killer words now in the past. So but it also has some of the residue of the way that it has functioned. But I think that in the strictest sense, the word witch, it refers to wizen, like a wiseacre, a wizen, a wise member. So the people that had been designated as witch, they had been the wise ones of Europe, that were the people that could. What that means is that they were self-efficient. That's what is so egregious about a witch. What's egregious about a witch in the truest sense, the deepest sense, is that that witch would have to be wise. That they're wise, they're competent in nature, which we're in nature at all times. Even our ass stuck inside of a house somewhere, a roof, we're still in nature, and there's no viability within a roof without nature, because you still need to bring food in there. So you're still subject to nature that whole time. Any human being is subject to nature. But a lot of education now, and I would imagine going back, it's to deprive us of our actual real competence as members of our understanding of ourselves as members of nature, but then also our understanding of and upon and through nature. You give them a religious training, right? Your older schools had been parochial. Going way back, there was no education outside of the church. There's probably no economic activity outside of the church, but education plays into economic activity, because what the hell are you going to bring to sell at the local gathering? I think your fairs going back, they had an economic component, right? So there's something of carnival. There's been written something of carnival, is that human beings need a sensation of carnival. That's probably a lot of what Friday night's about. Hey man, it's Friday night, man. What are you doing on Friday night, man? What are you gonna do with this Friday? We need a little bit of theatrics in carnival and a break from the normal on Friday night. That's part of carnival, but it's also part of fair going. But also there's the economic part of fair going. Because what the hell do you enjoy at a fair? But also, what do people have of incentivized to bring cool shit to a fair outside of like a swap, like a festival? So it's interesting, right? You have the state fair in fall, right? But that's also when the farmers would bring their wares and their the so you have a lot of people, right? We like my favorite is Halloween. We're gonna get together for Halloween. The real name is Sanheim.
Halloween. Halloween is different than any other day because we're gonna get together a little bit sequestered in privacy, and all the cool people are gonna get to go over there, and they're gonna go do cool shit. They're gonna frolic and revelry and cool shit with the people that are cool enough to be there, right? On Halloween, right? Because it's differently right now. But what the hell do you do any other regular Friday, right? Your ass get together, you stuff your face and shit, right? You pig out and shit, right? And then when you pig out and shit, you also get to frolic a little bit and shit, right? That's what you do on any other regular half-ass holiday. I'm not. I don't mean some people think that Friday is a real holiday, so I don't mean to be derogatory, but any other get-together weekend, you stuff your face and shit based on what your surplus of the week. So nowadays you can get paid by the week a lot, but in the past it had been 2 weeks, right? So now people go out probably damn near every week, but you maybe in the past would have only went out every other week. So you get your little surplus, your little your harvest, your 2 week harvest or your week harvest. You get together, you stuff your face and shit, and then you also frolic a little bit and shit, or a little bit away from the regular people and shit that can't afford to be cool and shit. And that's what you do on a regular basis. But then in Halloween, Samhain, you get together with the surplus, right? The real surplus, the real harvest, right? And then you get to be a little bit, you get to think yourself wicked and shit and go and frolic and shit. But it's actually the same thing you do all the time. You get the harvest together, you stuff your face, then you sneak off from the harvest where all the other regular people are at the harvest, and then you do the regular shit and you make some sound, some crazy sound. And then the regular people are like, oh shit, they might be flying on. Are they flying on brooms out there? Are they they're making some weird noises out there, man. What are they doing in the woods making the weird noises? Man, all they're doing, man, is they're getting together not too far away from the harvest. They're stuffing their face at the harvest, and then they're going to do the way that any other person would like to do when they get their needs met. They get their real needs met now that their needs are met around the harvest and shit, right? That's Halloween Samhain, man. You can save all that spooky pumpkin shit, right? Maybe they get so much free time because you give enough person enough free time, they're gonna be themselves. So what is everyone? Everyone is wicked and shit. You get all your needs met. You might be a little bit wicked like that. I'm just being honest, right? That's what the Halloween shit is about to me. But all I meant to say is but persecuting people based on what they believe in and what's interesting to them and what they might be good at and what they know, that's hellified. So I'm not for any of the atrocities, the former atrocities, but a lot of people they would stand by and they'd watch that bullshit go down based on the dogma, the delusion, the fairy tale, in my standpoint, of what's called the church, the stories of the religion. That's how I appreciate it. But nowadays people they stand by and they allow a lot of bullshit to go on marginalized person, whether people are medically marginalized, professionally, socially, any combination thereof, and the hand and glove way that works together, the cahoots of that, the racket of that, the outcome of that, the deprivation of that, the suffering of that, the punishment of that. A lot of people stand by and they watch that shit and they get off on that shit too, if you're gonna be honest. But the word witch in the truest sense would be a wise person. That's what they really were the wise people of Europe. I read that in a book about witchcraft. And then but it would actually exactly make sense because if they were being that wise, they could heal themselves. They had a they weren't needing a sanctioned person for nothing, right? So they can feed themselves, they can heal themselves, they can clothe themselves, they can conceal themselves, they can present themselves upon their own means like that, baby. They're not beholden to the church for self-esteem, for identity, for sanity, for socializing. They are not beholden to the church. But you actually can't get away from the community. You can't get away from which is ran by the church, right? The local manor, the village, they're ran by the church, right? You have no standing in the community without the approval of the community generally, but you still need something of economic viability within and without the community. But here you go outside the community, you're viable outside the community, you have more self-confidence outside the community, you have more of a congruent ideas that allow you to be, because part of being sane, like a lot of people say your ass is insane, that person's insane, but they have a lot of rhetoric and ideas, but their ass is insane. But we're not. What you're more insane for calling someone insane. So you're insane, right? It take one to know one, right? You're that certain about that one insane. Your ass had to be insane too. But what they're saying is that person's ideas are not congruent. They have ideas and shit, this idea and shit, that idea and shit. But their ass got to be crazy because I don't think their ideas are congruent. but they also think your ideas are congruent, right? But who's fucking with who, right? That one's crazy. That one's insane. You're not. You're also having interest in fucking with that person or having that a person's ability to fuck with themselves and fuck with other people affected by your fucking with them. So your ass is worried about them. So their ass is crazy. They think your ass isn't crazy, but they're not worried. You're worried. So you'd be more insane technically pound for pound because anything can be reasoned from the standpoint. So they're crazy. Some people, that person's crazy. To some other people, you're not crazy, but to that person, you're crazy, and everyone can be a little bit crazy. So you're both crazy on a level. It can be reason you're crazy on a level, but you're also worried. So they're crazy, but they're not worried. You're crazy to them, and you're worried to them and to yourself. You're the crazy one, buddy. I say you're crazy. If I'm gonna be a judge, that if I'm gonna be a judge that doesn't currently have someone to role play with me as a defendant slash wife slash mistress slash any other thing role play like I was that's an allusion to what I was joking in the beginning of this life. I don't currently have that much, but if I were to call myself a judge, right? So you can't call yourself certain things in right life, right? You call yourself a judge and shit, right? But to call myself a judge and shit, I say the one that would be crazy would be the one that'd be worried because that actually does sound crazy. You get high and shit, right? You're delusional. And then the inningers. Why are you on the stairs, man? I was just under the stairs because I was wondering about the inningers under the stairs. There had been some inningers. That shit sound crazy, right? But I'm not worried at that point. But get away from me with it's the inningers. The inningers are cutting now. That shit sound crazy because I'm worried now. That's the difference between anything else is being worried. But you have the doctors and shit that are very worried. That now that actually would be some worryful shit if I was something, but I knew I had me some doctors that are egregious enough that because when you're a doctor, you have a there's a conflict of interest when you combine money with things. You combine an incentive, you incentivize something. You are an economically incentivized actor in a community. You're a problem like that. I think because there can be extrapolated to be some form of a conflict of interest because economics is war. So they say all all hey man but what actually did happen like between you and old girl my girlfriend 5-10 years ago now that a lot of water went under the bridge you want to hang out with me and shit we're hanging out and shit what was that about with old girl I used to date all I'm saying is man is all fair in love and war baby all fair in love and war man that's all I got to say about that shit man you know how it go man all fair in love and war man you went to boot camp right all what I did with, and that was during boot camp, right? When we were with old girl, yeah. But what did happen with you and old girl while I was in boot camp, right? I don't know, man. All I got to say is about all's fair is love and war. You know about that shit, right? All fair is love and war, right? That's what had happened, right? Okay, damn, I see. What's up with that? Hey, man, that fool was in my car, man. What old boy? You saw old boy from back in the day? Yeah, man, he was in the car, man. I took his ass over to the next state because I was trying to buy liquor on a Sunday and shit, and I dragged him along with that and shit. And I was blowing half. I asked him. I did ask him for permission if I could smoke in front of him, but I was blowing second half, smoking that full face and shit, right? Taking him over to the next state so I could buy liquor on a Sunday and shit. And he don't fuck with liquor or cigarettes right now and shit. But I took him for that shit, right? But $5 came up out my shit, right? What he took $5 out your shit? Yeah, man, I had been telling him all fair love and war and shit, right? But that motherfucker, I think he might have took that $5 and shit, right? That I had left around him and shit, right? Yeah, all's fair in love and war, but what about economics shit, right? But what war is there without economics? What love is there? Excuse me, I'm getting so carried away, I'm drooling and shit. What war is there without economics? What love is there without economics? If we're being real, because even if somebody like you because you don't got money, they also like you because you got confidence, and your confidence can be redeemed for money, or you're just like people fuck with you. So that person's not they're not the richest person, but it seemed like people fuck with them and they respect them, so they could also get on with people and be fucked with to have something of economics at one point. You sense that on a level. So there's no romance without economics. There's no war without economics. If you know anything about war, also perception is very important. Perception is the deeper part of war and love. Perception is, but also economics is part of perception, and perception is part of economics. But all's fair. All's fair is funny, right? Because people would say all's fair in love and war. all's fair in love and all's fair in war. But if you fuck with their economics, they're gonna get their feelings hurt. Or if you play with your if you use your perception to your strong suit, they got a problem with that, right? Is that yeah, man, this and that, man. That fool is what can that fool really afford them Jordans? Does that fool really, man? You seen that fool pull up doing deliveries on a Harley? Man, fuck that dude, man. So your ass pull up to do a delivery on a Harley, right? For whatever platform, right? You did a delivery on a Harley because you had ethically procured something and you got fucked out of something you got fucked out of different jobs doing the right thing, or you had to exit them because you were doing the right thing and people were fucking with you while you were doing the right thing. They're fucking with you and shit, right? They're saying some shit about you that could get your ass fucked up. They're fucking with you and shit, right? So you leave about that shit because you had to, and you figure out another way to get by. Um, Such as using a mother. So you weren't out there trying to buy the coolest shit, Harley, fucking Harley, fuck. You don't care about Harleys and shit. You were actually more so interested in a go kart that works because a go kart's less conspicuous, and you like go karts in different weather. But you got fucked out your livelihood, and you got fucked out of a go kart doing the right thing. Your story is your story now, and but you had some credit because that whole time you were doing that, you're making money and you're doing the right thing in life, also on paper. So you got some credit. The exception proves the rule. You find yourself into a Harley shop because you had been shopping for dirt bikes, right? Damn, man, I never been on a motorcycle, but the dirt bike's got to be the cheapest one. And I used to like dirt bikes when I was cool and shit. Where can I find me a dirt bike right now? You let your phone do it working. You fuck with all this shit, and you fuck with the store on the other side of town. You're driving to the other side of town. You didn't know that they got all the coolest shit as you get outside of town. They got the cooler self defense training outside of town. They got the coolest Converse outlet. Now I'm currently rocking Converse. I like Converse. If you know anything about life, all I'm gonna say, if you had to run for any reason, you do better in some Converse because they're lighter. They're sturdy on the bottom. They're lighter. You can run farther with Converse than any other cool shoe. A word to the wise, Converse are that shit. It's funny because I actually just did a video 2 days ago where I'm blasting that I got brown Converse on. Then I see a famous person, a famous YouTuber, about to get his ass in a lot of trouble that he chose. Like fights are bogus, man. I ain't trying to fight nobody, but a fight that gets you millions of dollars that you chose to be at, that's probably the best standpoint to fight. This fool get up looking cooler than Rocky in Philadelphia. Now that person I referenced, Tashreeq Bey, he would have different things to say about Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a significant point. According to him, Philadelphia is actually still the capital of the United. If you know the way that the United States functions, not the fiat educate, not what we're taught about the education in fiat and that we operate with, that's still fiat. If you know what the United States is beyond fiat and above, under, if you under and overstand the United States, under, through, and above fiat, you may appreciate that Philadelphia is still the current capital of the United States for intensive purposes. I say that. I'm only gonna say that hiding under the shadow of Tashreeq Bey because he's made that statement online. But so you get this person currently. It looked like Philadelphia where he's at. I think Rocky the film, it might have been filmed in Philadelphia. I don't know if it was or not. But I made a video 2 days ago about how I'm currently rocking brown Converse. I was doing so because I was referencing myself as a modern day living displaced and itinerant traveling clown, self funding, mind you, clown. You guys are comedians that they get a lot of love, but people paying for that shit. So somebody pay for your shit, they can have something to say with what you gotta say. That's a comedian. But a clown, one of the reasons people hate clowns, it might actually be the same reason that people would have hate witches, is because the witch would be more self-sufficient in the past. That self-sufficiency can be a problem for a community and that's also ran by a church, because if you're wise in nature, you have a standpoint to speak up for yourself, to be independent, to be jealous. Who are you more jealous of than the person that ain't got to ask for nothing? That may have been your witch in the past. Witches may have been persecuted as a function of jealousy. I'll say that. But then but also clowns. Clowns also may be the hatred for clowns. It actually may be a hatred of jealousy because clowns are more talented pound for pound. Who do you know? If you're gonna be honest, right? You know people that can dunk from the free throw line. How many people that you know that can dunk from the free throw line and juggle? Now, a clowns can't dunk from the free throw line, but if a clown could dunk from the free throw line, they'd probably be the sooner one to be able to dunk or do something cool similar to dunk while also juggling. A clown could be. So your clowns are some of your most talented people. Maybe some of the people that are respected for being talented they're talented appropriately. So they're talented such that they don't piss people off or rock the boat. But if you were to give them yet another talent, right, they may actually get into some trouble with that. So like you take the person that everybody's ready to bend over and prostrate from, whatever they are, politician, non-politician, comedian, non-comedian, anything. They're cool like that. We rock with them in that, right? But if I had a problem with someone that's really well respected, like I want to be an asshole. Like let's say I knew, like I said that the person that walked by in this live is actually a master. That person's demonstrably a master of something that they don't flaunt their shit. But that had actually been a master walk past me. If I had a problem with that person, with my relationship to them as a family member, if I really wanted to get them hurt, what I would do, I wouldn't interfere with nothing that go on. I'll read me a book about juggling, and then I'll also teach them how to juggle, right? They know how to juggle now. They're a master who also knows how to juggle. They may get hurt like that because someone would be juggling. Now, it's one thing you can do one thing. That's one thing, but they can do. So did you hear about this person? They came over, right? They mind their own business. They don't mess with nobody. They got courted on to the local venue for artists, right? They now just showed up in front of the artists. All the artists are like, damn it, they're better. So this one, the way you know that people that you're really good at someone is you cause fights, right? So this is the art scene, right? This is the art museum, right? These are the artists, right? Hear this person show their art. Hey man, you can't do that. You can't draw like that. Nah, but you can't do that, man. Man, fuck you, man. I'm fucking with that. If you're good enough at something, you cause a fight because they're like, hey, man, what's with this shit? You're always bringing me this shit, man. How come you can't draw like that new guy, man? Man, fuck you, man. I'm getting on with the new guy. But if you wanted to be preemptive about it, you teach the new guy to juggle, right? And he can't. It's so much fun, he can't stop it, right? So he bring up the new art that everybody's on him now. Ooh, it's the new thing. Have you heard about the new person that can draw soup cans? He can, man. What are with these old soup cans you're drawing, man? No, I need some new soup cans. But he was juggling, right? So, man, fuck you in your drawings, man. I'm over here. No. My drawings are okay, man. Did you know he thinks he's better than everyone? He juggles too. Wait, he juggles? He juggles. He come over here. He kind of does think he's better than everybody, and he juggles too. Man, so you can get your ass in trouble with too much of talent like that. So that had been the thing. That might be why clowns get in a lot of trouble because they have too much of talent. They have talent and they're funny. Being funny is one of the rarest talents because it actually does take a little bit of practice. You can't get all the way up to being really good with it with talent with juggling. I mean with humor unless you practice it. But you also you set yourself. You would have to be a competent clown you would have to engage in self-deprecation and you would also have to take social risk risk no reward without risk but also no risk without blunder as it goes social no social risk without blunder you also can't be competent and confident in the truest sense socially without being familiar and comfortable blundering you have to be able to and versed in blundering to be confident enough to stick yourself out there again and have different times I've been called different things in my life. You can't do certain things without being called them. I've been called having gall. You have to have gall to be a clown. You'd have to have gall to work up the skill set. But then you may actually be so good at it that you're also so you're as a clown, you're hated because you have gall. That's people are jealous of people hate the things they're jealous of. But most people don't have the gall to practice being a clown. So you have the gall that's worthy. That's a how you know you have something worthy is that it's so worthy that it actually it draws hatred. So you have a prophet, mind you, the prophet is hated for their worthiness. They're so worthy that they're actually hated for their worthiness. That's a prophet. But a clown, they may be so August for their. So you go to Halloween is in the August. Samhain harvest in the August. August is a great word that's like majesty, magic, magic. Not as in supernatural, but one of the awesome, serene August personage. August is very awesome. So the Gaul that might actually be an August human propensity because it would attend, inform, and actually transcend the greatest of confidence. Gaul is actually you could say Gaul is confidence par excellence is actually Gaul because Gaul goes up to through attendant and beyond confidence. You got the most confident person, but how many confident people do you know can stand up to an apostle? Now you got one stand up to an apostle? How much confidence does it actually take to stand up to an apostle, to have to righteously, ethically, such as that it doesn't cost you your freedom, as the situation would call for? How many do you know, confident people you know, outstanding members, eminent members of a community, do you know have the gall to stand up to up an just not actually stand up next to, have a reason to stand up next to an apostle in a service, be mocked for it, ran out like that, run whatever risk they run with that, and continue to be themselves and stand up to someone else if it would come to it again, having come to it. That's gall. That's beyond confident, because most of your eminent members of a community, the most confident member that you know, they have not the confidence that is the gall to go up next to, past someone of a higher rank and standing in the community. None, but I would imagine in the past, your witches, they would have enough gall to either stand up to the highest member of clergy or walk away, because walking away is better than standing up. You have enough confidence to walk away from the village. It's interesting. So you burn the witch at the stake, right? But did you burn the witch at the stake from among you, or did you have to go fetch the witch? You had to go fetch the witch because the witch wasn't fucking with you, and you're also mad that they weren't fucking with you, and you probably had people that would maybe be impressed, if not maybe one day emulate the witch who had walked away from you. So you had to go fetch the witch, just like you sometimes go fetch your captive clientele as a mental health professional. If we're being honest, some of these constituents, these clients, they're fetched. They're targeted and recognized by different sophisticated social apparatus. The most sophisticated being that word of mouth. Word of mouth is still the most sophisticated social apparatus net. They say the matrix is part of a system called something net, right? Like Skynet. The matrix is part of Skynet. Skynet has not failed in its apparatus and functioning, and is we must worry about Skynet now. What is Skynet but hearsay? What is the matrix but hearsay? What efficiency, what awesomeness, what meaning, what value has the matrix outside of hearsay, right? What's the best way to advertise your business? Would be social media ads. We need to, the best way that we have our best current, now the models change every 5 years. The current best means of advertising is social media upon this platform. It had been this platform before, but what is the only, so when you get up on a platform, what do? You talk in front of people, right? So the platform, but also what you talk about on the platform and what it amounts to is hearsay, word of mouth. There's nothing actually more. Now, if you have the gall to stand up to word of mouth, you might not be able to get past that one. You might not survive that, because word of mouth is still the most crucial shit, and in terms of consequential, word of mouth is the most consequential thing, and it's also the most sophisticated and sublime thing. So it had been word of mouth all along. Skynet had been with human beings since the first. So you actually can't do some things outside of a pair. So the first human being had been preceded by a pair. Like, I'm just talking shit. The first, you would have to have a pair of human beings before you could have a human being. So the first human being probably there was a set of human beings before there had been a single human being, likely a reason. Because how can you have the first human being without the first set of human beings? Where you have two or three agree, it shall be done. That's the word of the holy word says that where two or three come together and agree, it shall be done. That's in the righteous sense. But in the unrighteous, which can also attend and be next to the righteous, it's the same. Where two or three agree, they move on that. The community move on that. Word of mouth move on that. Game over. Game over. This and that, you're going up against Skynet. This and that, word Skynet get against you. That is, word of mouth is against you. Game over. But Skynet had always been around. As long as you've had two or more people, which had actually come before the first person, you've had Skynet that long. Because if you remember, like when you're a kid, I remember when I was a kid, sometimes I'd be in the hall at night. My parents think I'm asleep. I hear my parents, they might not even be talking about me, but just by their tone of voice, they sound like they could be talking about me. I remember one time my parents, they had the door closed. It's not good to have a door closed in a house, right? If people would say, hey man, don't close any doors in my house, son. Don't close any doors in this house. You may live in this house. You may come up in it. No, my parents never had this conversation because they're the main ones closing doors and shit. But some people that have good parents, they say, hey son, you come up in here. You know, you don't got this whole world figured out, but you don't close any doors in my house. Do you understand that? But my parents have been the main ones. But that's true. Why would you need to close the door in your house, right? If you were now, now you do your business in the bathroom. That's one thing, right? But I remember one time I was watching like some of these reality shows on in MTV, and people have different dynamics in their household. Like, and in this household, this dude was taking a shit with some air freshener with the door ajar. He wasn't egregious enough to take a shit with the door wide open, but he was taking a shit in his house, blowing an air freshener with the door ajar, talking shit to his parents out the door. I was like, damn, that was a different dynamic. I could, as a teenager, I could not fathom taking a shit in a household and being comfortable enough with your household members that you could have the door ajar. And I'm not trying to be egregious with that, but it's a different level of being open that man, fuck it, man. We're keeping it real, man. Gotta take a shit. Probably in the past, people ain't always have doors that work. Their door may not have worked on that reality television show. But my house had been a lot about closing doors. That's kind of egregious because other than taking a shit or doing your business in a bathroom, what are you talking about that you need to be furtive, hiding your conversation from your family members? That's deep like that. That would actually speak. A house divided against itself can't stand. That is a house with doors closed and people need to have house doors because they could potentially be gossiping about each other, divulging each other's goings on, which could get a person hurt. Going on with the door closed like that. But my parents would actually close the door when I was a boy, so that would be significant to me as a child. I wasn't understand the way I'm talking now, but as a boy, I get out into the hallway and my parents got the door closed and they sound mad. My parents sound madly right now. Why are they mad? Are they talking about me? They might be talking about me because they're closing the door and they don't want me to hear what they're talking about. I can't understand anything they're talking about other than my name. So maybe they're talking about me. That's what I think, but their tone of voice sounds upset and it sounds like the daddy is mad at somebody and the mommy is standing up for somebody to protect them from the dad being mad. And it sounds like the mom is sounds like a little bit like a lawyer, like she's taking up for somebody, but I don't know who they'd be talking about, and I can't understand anybody or thing else except for me. And they close the door, so it would likely need to have to be about me. That's what I think. That's what's going on in my heart as a child. Then they open the door. Hey, what are you doing out here? Why are you outside of our door? I don't know, but it sounded scary, and I wanted to figure out what you were talking about if it had to do with me, so I could know what might happen to me. That's what I was thinking as a child, but it was significant. That had been Skynet I was listening to. That's what Skynet sound. What is the real voice of Skynet? It's not ones and zeros or like the voice of AI. Skynet is you're a little child. They got the door closing shit. They're gossiping and shit. They would have closed the door so you can't understand that shit. You don't understand anything they'd be talking about, so it might have to do with you. They're debating the future of the worlds. That is your world as a child. But that's still life. Is that you got a lot of people gossiping and shit. You got Skynet gossiping and shit. A lot of that shit is still about you and shit. You got these doctors, right? They can afford the best online. They can afford the best access to computers. It's funny because some of the most fancy, well-to-do shit they can't afford to have the lights to keep their own lights on, and not also without your participation. So you got the mental health, this and that, but you actually don't know if they can afford to keep the lights on, and likely they can't afford to keep it on without your ass, such as why they're courting you to be having to deal with them. But all this, they got all this credentials on the wall, this and that, all the best means of this and that, all the best livelihoods. But what are they? So what are they doing all day long? They're gossiping about your ass on there with Skynet. They're Skynet and Skynet, and they're worried about you. That is, they're gossiping about you. But since you had the first pair set of parents, likely, then that's people. So the first person came from the first set. The first set was two parents, gave you the first person. The first two parents, they likely would have had something to say about their child, maybe favorable, maybe not, likely both. That's the first Skynet right there. Everything that proceeds from there is reminiscent of that. Reminds a person of that banter between the first set of parents and people actually gossiping about each other in this life, like they're other people's parents and shit. You go to the coffee shop, the people in the coffee shop, they're gossiping about people, real people in life that got real reputations that they have to answer for, to and by and because of. People got to answer for their reputation in this life. But you're over here in a coffee shop fucking with that person's reputation openly, or even worse, behind the counter at the coffee shop, fucking with the reputation of people that patronize the coffee shop when they're there and when they're not. That shit's all egregious, and that shit's all what Skynet is. But Skynet's still the best form of advertising, had been word of mouth like that. But all I meant to say is that so all's fair in love and war, and but perception can influence economics, it can impact the outcome of war. Perception can, and perception can also so perception, so all's fair in love and war, but people get their ass feelings hurt if you take it all the way to economics, right? I knew you wanted I knew I took your girlfriend. I knew we were at war, but you fuck with my economics. You fuck with my that's mean. You were to fuck with my economics. You had fucked with my economics. This is intolerable. But you also played with your perception, such as that you allowed me to think that it was all good to mock you, your love, your your war, my war, our war, and the economics that steps on this because you had used your perception to a strong suit. It made me think wrong about you, that I took you in my midst and you fucked over my economics so I could no longer fuck over you through war and your love therein, and also economics in general. That would give me the standpoint to fuck you over and others, and sometimes myself over, upon economics because you used your perception to a strong suit. This is unethical. I must seek redress, as you did not seek redress when I already fucked over your love and your war and our war and what would then be our love and the economics, our economics, less of your economics, because it had also injured you the way that I fucked you over and got over on economics. This had all been usurped by perception. The one thing that you may have come to learn through your experiences, no less than your experience of war, by your poor footing, um, and you would use it to a strong suit. This is wrong, since I am running out of breath. But the perception therein, the perception is wrong, that you had been so unassuming, so seemingly honest, but also unassuming as to be seemingly honest, that I took you in my midst to further rehash, recap, and confirm the injustice I had done to you. And then you did that as to walk out with $5 that may have actually been your $5 that you had once given me. And you walked out. This is wrong. I am out of breath, nearly out of life, for you have cost me my life, which is my breath, by making me have to explain the redress that I seek that you had played with. So perception is very important, and perception might be the undoing of all things, even Skynet. You don't get over on Skynet by being Neo and learning a lot of cool ass lessons that already exist on Skynet and be around a lot of people that are already bought into Skynet at one degree or another, or at least had one spot in the Skynet. Your ass bought into Skynet. Your ass is corrupted by Skynet, hence now and forever. If you played with Skynet, you're now part of Skynet forever. Your ass, everyone you deal with, ass. You can't trust nobody ass that had once ever derived a benefit that is believed in Skynet. Everyone's ass is bogus now. Skynet is bogus. You're bogus too, even someone that want to overcome Skynet, because your ass is part of Skynet. Yet, if you were to have one last ounce of the ability to understand and therefore play with, take less seriously, but play with perception, you may actually get over on yourself and on other people, which are also yourself, which are all Skynet. There ain't no Neo ducking bullets and this and that bullshit based on Skynet. Because Skynet probably got something worse for your ass than a bullet. That's hearsay. Hearsay is worse than a bullet. You can dodge bullets, you can't dodge hearsay. Maybe you could, and then hearsay, it probably, so the worst thing is a half truth. Half truth is more deadly than anything. I am going to say that anything that can be communicated on Skynet, that would be respected by Skynet, or that you would know of next to Skynet, it got to be something of half truth in there, because Skynet will tolerate anything. Skynet will tolerate anything but truth, because anything but a congruent truth, because it has nothing to do. There's no value in it. Skynet will respect anything that it can value. So that it can use, that it can manipulate. You can't manipulate the truth, but you can manipulate half truth, that is half-ass truth, half next to truth, half after truth, half before truth, half in truth. You can manipulate that. You can win with that. So a half truth is worse than a truth, according to Osho, because it's like a Trojan horse. You want to kill them, right? You want their asses in behind. They're in the walled city, right? The city of Trojan. There's no getting next to or past the city of Trojan. We know that. we're bad guys enough to be honest. The worst bad guy is the honest bad guy. The most formidable bad guy is the honest bad guy. We cannot get, sir, my lord, my lord of darkness. I am your foremost captain. The lieutenants and generals, they had been complacent and comfortable and frolicking in the bounty, in the booty of war. I had been up next to them and I knew their tactics, but I had not been had access and privy access to the booty. I got a little bit of the bounty, but not the booty. So I had not been overcome with my sensation and revelry and consumption of the booty. So they're now still yet your others, my lord, they're still complaced and confounded by their own enjoyment of the booty. But I had not access to the booty because they were a little bit more believable than me, and they had got me away from the booty. But I understand their tactics and also the booty and the tactics of the booty that had got over on them because we had come across one formidable. So we overcame these people. Your instructions, my lord, were to overcome all of the. We were to expand your empire, both local and abroad. But we also came across the people of that were led by one called Mabuti. We had gotten over all of the places, your lord, Asia, Asia Minor, that you had now referred to as Africa's, my lord, and I'm from Africa, and so, but we had come across one people, Lord, and they were egregious with those people, and they displaced those people. But as is their normal lot, they always, when all the other people, they would come across, they would always want to confiscate the booty. But we actually had there were one sole survivor of the pillage, named Mabuti, and they were obsessed with Mabuti, my lord. But I respected all the people that they misplaced, but also Mabuti, my lord. So they're and both he and I had escaped, my lord, and he taught me how to get past them. Because while they were more so they were concerned with a lot of things, but me and Mabuti got past. So it is I, my lord. I learned from him, so I took on his name. My name is Mabuti, my lord. I am actually the sole survivor of your own legions, and the one member that had been spared, them, my lord, because the most outstanding member who trained me to get past them, and I take on the name is Mabuti, my lord. So I survive as Mabuti, my lord. But they were overcome with booty, all of them. But I understand how the booty works and the tactics that they use, but also that they were overcome by their own tactics, the tactics of booty. But I understand because I am Mabuti. But this place, the Trojans, there's no getting past them. Not even, and not before, even with as me, Mabuti. I I even if you were to send me against them, my lord, with Mabuti, I couldn't get past them as they're presenting themselves. I would have to get past the wall with Mabuti. I need to actually bring Mabuti with me to get past them. But I can't do that unless we have to give them the promise of booty. We have to give the promise of friendship and peace and reconciliation, but also the hint of booty. So you have to put me in there in the you have to mail something like a horse because everyone likes horses. Everyone likes freedom. Men, women, and children alike, good, bad alike. Those who have suffered, those who have not yet suffered. There is none, my lord, my dark lord, who is free of a desire and enjoyment of freedom. So we need a horse. It would have to be a horse. But then also, there's no true enjoyment. Most of these people that have the dark lords, the people of the dark horse, that you are the Lord, my Lord. You are the Dark Lord. But the people of the Dark Horse, who are your next nearest less worthy rival, are the Dark Horse. But even they are not beyond the booty because they park their horses at a place called Dark Horse, and there they try to attract Mabuti and I, and also my booty, and all booty. They try to attract them with their horse with their dark horses. So we would need to replicate them, your nearest rival, with a horse, and you would have to put Mabuti and myself in there to give this sensation of the promise of freedom, reconciliation, and but there'd have to be a hint of booty in there to get past them. So, and then once we get in there, they shall be overcome with the booty, because there's none, my Lord, who can stand next to booty without also being booty. So that had been myself, my Lord, Mabuti. So you need to put Mabuti in there, myself, to get past the wall with the Trojans. But so I meant to say is that, but once we're in there, they will be overcome with the booty rapidly, because there's none who can stand the booty, not even those who are who relish and are competent around horses. There's none greater than booty, not even horse, because even all the horse, they also have booty, and they chase after booty. The best, even some of their best stallions, they're also they will get distracted by booties. The booties of the other horses, they are all be overcome by mabuti, because none of them, once they partake of the booty, they have no booty left. So it is only I that have any booty left, because I have not got to enjoy booty, my lord. So you must send I my booty in the horse. But that horse, the Trojan horse, that's the way to overcome anything, is the half truth. The Trojan is like a half truth, is that it's the promise of things, the reality of things, even the essence of things, but not the way that you intended. And that's will get over something. So it's like that, the half truth, like that. So the Matrix, Skynet, and also word of mouth, hearsay. It also exactly employs half truth. It kills with half truth, but it operates with half truth. So the Matrix, right? All of that learning that exists upon the Matrix. I'll be one to say. So you went to school for something online, right? All disrespect, because I went to school, I took different rigors of resource, and personally that could have cost my life and or slash livelihood, and may continue to put me in extended situations based on that engagement, based on my participation in online education, both self-educated, self-styled online education, but also formal education. So I'm not saying that I'm beyond self-education or online education, or better than it, or haven't learned things or come by it, but anything that you learn online, that is through Skynet, for lack of a better word, the Matrix, it is it is it is corrupted, because it is corruptible. Therefore, it is already corrupted, because it has been attended by, next to, and largely is part of something that proliferates with half truth. Because even if I came online with the truth, the gospel, now the gospel, I'm not saying what the gospel is or isn't, but for something to be so called and to exist being so called, it would have to be that to stand so called. So the gospel so called to this point, were I to appear with the gospel so called upon Skynet, it is already corrupt, because it is conveyed through Skynet, it is tolerated through Skynet. However, it would have to have an interest in Skynet to present itself to Skynet, and suffer Skynet, to tolerate itself, to suffer and be suffered by Skynet. It would have to have some form of interest that would attend and coincide and collaborate and coalesce and be sonorous with Skynet. So it is already half truth from that. Even the truth, were it to have an interest of itself to present itself or allow itself to be presented. Even great books, when a great book comes across you, like I came across Arthur Avalon. Some people say that book allowed itself to be found by you. The dynamics of what's contained in that book, where it was originally broadcast, furnished, then also the people who would be attracted to it, pick it up, engage with it, exist in life while having been engaged with it, then be dispossessed of it through their choice or another. The causation of that in a real, authentic piece of body of piece of work learning that is potent, that the causation of that and how it would present itself to the, it would have to allow itself to be presented to you. Because, like, for example, Sir John Woodroffe, Arthur Avalon, he divulged some of the great understanding of India, of his own choosing, but also of his own conceding, because he recognized himself that it was something of an extension and a breach of rapport and tradition for him to do that. His choosing to do that, to render it into Oxford English, and then it would come across somebody, it allowed itself, he allowed it to allow itself to come across somebody. That's me to the present day. But if something were to come online as the gospel truth, it allowed itself to be conveyed, to be discoverable by Skynet, and it would have to have an interest in that. I think that Arthur Avalon, I'll be willing to say, he would have had to have likely some form of an aspiration to have some form of worldly recognition, whether that be in monetary compensation or by name and prestige, to allow himself, to allow his scholarship to come into the public body of learning. He would have to, because, but he concedes that. But then also in one of his books, he references that his books then, they were rendered at a low price. I think they were using rupees then in India. He introduced his understanding at pennies on the dollar. So some of the different learning that I've put into the half price bookstore where I'm at, I've offered some my book, what I gave the half price bookstore in terms of pristine books and also different forms of content. Some of it still in the package. You have something over $1,000 worth of value while still in the package. So none of the actual value of what's in that has been depleted or deleted in terms of the physical constituents of that product. None of it has been deteriorated, such as it's still in the packaging. Then the learning would have had to be more valuable because it's now off the market that long. It was worthy enough to be produced, edited, and produced and packaged. It would have to have value there. But then, as time has went by, and as that has fall out of production, and it would have to have more value because it's more rare. It had value enough to be produced, published, then it would have to have more value because it's off the market. So the market is moving, but the market is also moving past whatever would be contained in there that was valuable enough to be worthwhile enough to be produced at one time. And something so ideas are value par excellence because there's no recognizing, engaging, and culling the value of anything without understanding in the first place. But then also the nature of ideas are such as that they gain with time. So things that are valuable, they gain with time. Ideas gain with time, if anything, because they fall out of vogue, they're forgotten, but their essence has not failed. So the idea is more valuable in the future than it was when it was rendered because the future has lost pace and lost track of that degree of that manifestation of learning. It was attended by the zeitgeist and the spirit and the knowing of that time, which had value into itself. But it was the cream of that time when it was produced, which is why it was produced. But then the times have changed. The times have forgotten about the value of other times. But the idea in itself, it retains the value of its own time, which was already the best of that time. But then it's valuable as a leverage as contraband in the future, ethical contraband, because its application and its essence is forgotten and likely not to be anticipated. So it has more value, if anything, in the future. But a lot of these works that I would bring to the half price bookstore, I was I would get a lot less than what they were worth when they were purchased, and likely what they're worth now. But I'm not in a position to argue with that, to outdo that in terms of promulgating and advertising and selling and receiving compensation myself. So they're actually still doing me a favor by taking that shit off of me, even when they're not compensating me what it's worth. But they're still giving me something. Not they're not giving me nothing. They're giving me less to next to less to towards nothing, but still something. So I'm not one to argue with that. And you got to meet one thing about business. So they would say that. So for layman, the layman tier understanding is that to reduce business to the finest example is that there's no business or advertising and therefore business without supply and demand. There's no application or understanding of business without supply and demand. I gained that from access to entry level business. I've taken some entry level business courses. What I came away from there knowing is that there's no business outside of implications and reality of supply and demand. However, there's no supply and demand without human interest. That is give and take, give a little bit, take a little bit, take a little bit, give a little bit. So there's give and take in anything, even passing off used books that are in pristine condition and were rare when they were procured, rare when they were rendered, and that much more rare now that they've been forgotten. But Arthur Avalon, when he rendered his ideas, he did so at pennies on the dollar or pennies on the rupee. I'm not sure what the smaller degree of rupee would be. Is that he knew he was not intending to be compensated, remunerated, compensated in terms of currency to anything of what his ideas had been worth. Then he said that in one of his books, and it is likely the case. So I'm not saying that man Arthur Avalon was about economic compensation, but he was about benefiting a public. And to do that, he would have to have something of a name. His name itself was strong enough because he was a knight. He was an ordained knight, Sir John Woodrow. Then also a High Justice of the Court of India. So that's a twofold outstanding name. One is that he would be knighted, but then also that he would serve India and on the High Court as a justice. Even though I'm mocking judges in this video humorously, I don't mock real justice. Lawfare, legal. The Grand Street Tashreeq Bey has pointed out the distinction that legal law can be law actually refers to land, air, and water, occurring to Tashreeq Bey. Law is to mitigate and calibrate and facilitate the application of the transactions that would take place on land, air, and water that would amount to life and death, warfare and economics and love, which is the same, is mitigated upon lines of travel, that is trade lines. There's none of that. There's no war. There's no love, and there's no there's no love. There's no so love, war, and economics are like rock paper scissors. You can get over on one. You can't get past. None of those can get past the other, but none of them are also greater than the other, and they also reform and make possible. How may you have war without people to fight the war? How may you have people without love? How may you have love without economics? That is people to collaborate and give the standpoint for what we need to exist. So love, love. That's almost like law right there. So land, air, and water, love, war, and affluence. There you go. Law is love. Law is land, air, and water, according to Tashrik Bey. But you could also say the reality of that is also love, affluence, and war, and those redouble to inform the other and actually make what they make life, love, affluence, and war, which are all the same. You can express any of those as the other one, and they can amount to the other one. They're actually interchangeable. Those are synonymous terms right there. Love, affluence, and war are synonymous, but also um, economics, um, love, and war are possible because of economics. That's possible because of land, air, and water. You may not have you have nothing viable of love, war, or economics without land, air, and water in themselves, but then also travailing them, traveling upon them. You have nothing viable without the traveling upon and the trading upon land, air, and water. And I got a little bit diverged with that. But so dang, I diverged. So that's what law is. That's law. But law can as soon be lawfare. So law is not necessarily just. There's nothing inherently just about land. There's nothing inherently just about water. There's nothing inherently just about uh air. What you do upon land, air, and water can amount to any degree of justice and injustice. And there's really nothing of justice or injustice to be experienced outside of what's possible upon and through and on and in land, air, and water. An example that I've told some people is that a good example of amorality, right? Actually, in the truest sense, justice is not moral. Justice is amoral because you can kill somebody with morality and you can be very unjust with morality, right? Hey man, this person did that thing. So we can do so that person has been called doing that thing. They can be victimized, they can be overpunished or underpunished, which is if you underpunish them, that's an injustice to who they injured. However, if you underpunish them, that's also an injustice to them because they're likely to replicate the activity, and then they'll come upon a higher tier of punishment that would have been averted had they been appropriately punished, or they'll further cost other people. So when you underpunish, that's as bad as so to underpunish is as bad as to overpunish, and but to punish appropriately, that might be the best thing, but how may you apply punishment to another person because their experience is different than yours? So even your understanding of what they did and the application of what you do to them and what that does to them, that there's something of arbitrary there in there that is gray. Gray area is the gray might be a better word than devil. Gray is a better word than devil. You think the devil wears red? No, no, no. The devil wears gray. We know what red is, but we don't know what gray is and can be and can amount to. We don't know that because gray is the ambivalence that is there, the misunderstanding that is there for any amount of leverage that can amount to any form of atrocity. God Himself may not overstand. God Himself may not violate the free will of another, such as he would no longer be God from that point because he would no longer be ultimate. That part of being ultimate is being unbound. Were you to be unethical, you are bound by being unethical because you can be limited. You can be called less than ethical. If you are the greatest, but you're not righteous, you can be called less than ethical. That is less than great. So if you can be called something honestly, then you are limited by what you can be called. Hey man, till that punk come over here. Yeah, but that was nothing but a punk. So when you call them a punk, that don't mean nothing to them because they know they're not a punk, or to other people because other people know they're not a punk, or to you because you can't say it with conviction because you know they're not a punk. But if they actually are a punk in themselves first, they're a punk in themselves. You didn't actually know they were a punk, but you called them a punk and they flinched at that. Now other people believe they're a punk. So they're a punk in other people's eyes and their eyes. And now that's workable. So they're now a punk in your eyes convincingly. They're a punk like that. But if someone is, and so they can be you can call for someone and also limit someone by a congruent thing that you can call them. But the greatest in this life cannot be called anything but the greatest. Otherwise, they could be called the greatest. So they're not bound by anything, not the least of which being unethical. To override another person's free will is unethical. However, if you entice a person, that might be the most that you can do. Because even you as an unethical actor, you're not stronger than the greatest. So you actually can't overcome another person's free will also. As an unethical person, you may not overcome another person's free will because were you to do so, you'll draw repercussive forces in yourself first, but then also within and without, within yourself and without yourself that will amount to being attended by and being within the understanding of who and what's great come down on your ass, being unethical. So no one is beyond overriding another person's free will, ethical persons, non-ethical included, without drawing repercussion force, such as to usurp whatever standing you had before you were unethical with someone. However, the most you can do of yourself, the most devilish thing you can do of yourself, is to entice another person to another person to act in such a way that would betray leverage. If they betray leverage, an unethical person, as they can ethically do so, can access what leverage a person has divulged of themselves, conceited of themselves, and such that that leverage can actually be employed against a person. If a person has enough leverage on another person and utilizes it effectively, their leverage can be used to override another person's free will, which is actually part of the whatever initial transgression that they conceded by acting based on by being the real coercion would be to entice a person to act against their interest or another person's interest that would concede leverage. Once that leverage is conceded, their free will can be overrided to any form of heinous outcome. The worst thing that can happen to you is not what someone can do to you, but what you can do to yourself. And therefore, the worst form of violence would be leverage. Leverage is the violent the if someone saw something that was that if someone saw something that was unstomachable, that was if someone were to see something that was traumatizing, um, what's the word, disturbing. If you saw something that was disturbing, what was disturbing in what you saw is that either someone injured themselves upon a means of leverage, or they were injured upon a means of leverage. The leverage is what's disturbing than the violence. For example, I grew up with a friend who his parents were around things like he had a parent who serviced high end luxury exotics. Like a lot of people be like, man, watch what I do. What I about to do? What I about to do with the phone? I had got the phone. I'm up here at the top line with the phone. Now watch me how they about to pull out a different with the phone. They about to when they see the phone, they had the dinner with them coming with the boy about to do with the boy with the phone. Well, what boy I about to do with the boy with the phone? The boy had been around the bill mother. That boy he like him the momo. He like him the momo. He up in the momo with the he like him something about a little Holly. He did about with the Holly did not, but the Holly ain't nothing but a good old American boy with the but he on the momo with the phone, a good old American boy with the phone right there. But he might have been made over to the Tana way. Yeah, they made the Holly boy the Tana way, but he's still American boy. He didn't do things like that. He about the American boy with the two with the Momo with the Tana. Now he did come in the Tana now, but he still Momo on the Holly with the Momo. But did about the phone right here. I got the phone with the good old boy, and the Demon boy. The Demon boy, you know them good old Demon boy. They know them to the born boy. They had them me the form out here with the Demon boy. I about to do the damn thing with the born boy on the boy. On the Holly boy with the I about to do the damn thing on the boy with the born. When the light turned me green, did that updated turn me green? I'm about to do the boy. I'm about to do one with the form. When the light had turned me green, go with the form because I got the form. I paid for the form. I did use me the American boy. I didn't use me the American paper now. I use the green American paper now that I got from I got over me on now on the Ollie boy and the other boys that do things with the moment with the American paper now because I do like me the American paper. I can buy me thing every now and then. I give me a little nice and a little nice with the American thing, with the American paper thing. Now I like me the paper. I do like some paper now. I get in the paper now. It's the paper now. They say that yeah, this now, but I do like me the green paper now because sometimes every now with the paper now that I do it being good one with I get me the paper now, such as them boys can't get them after me about nothing that had got me have my hands on some paper, some little green paper. But I take my gun on paper now. I with a Derman boy, and I get a Derman boy. He know him about the foreign because he came from the foreign now. Now the China boy, the China foreign, they do things nice now. In China, they do things nice and they sell to you at a nice price. Now I ain't got nothing to say me about the China boy. In the China, they also them some foreign. The German boy over there. Now he also the foreign boy. Um, but he gonna cost you a little bit more money now because that's just how they had doing it. And they have these boys growing up now. They grow up in Durham now, and they do things that they like them the money now. They cost a little bit more, and you mess with them Durham boys. But they do things nice with the foreign now. So when I say foreign, I'm talking about me the Durham boy, not necessarily the Holly boy, the American boy that had got it from the China boy that do things nice now at a good price now. But it still ain't the same thing as the Durham boy that do things the Durham way when I say the foreign now. So when the thing had turned to green, now I'm about to do them one on the thing that I had got with the green paper now with the Derma boy, the phone with the Derma phone. I like me the Derma phone. I'm about to do them one. I'm about to do me. I'm about to do them one. I'm about to do the Hardy boy one, a Momo. I'm about to do them one with the with the phone one that I got with the green paper now. Ain't nothing somebody because I ain't done nobody nothing. I didn't break nothing now. I'm about to break little heart now. I'm about to break little boy little heart now, but I still ain't done me nothing one that nobody with them boys can get over me on now because I hadn't done me nothing that wasn't against my rights now because I had been born here. I have been born here. A lot of people ask is you this and that, but I have been born here. That's all I know. I've been born less than a mile from here. I got the green thing less than a mile here. Got the green paper now less than a mile thing. I did have to try me a way to get the Derma thing, the phone Derma thing, but I had got it with the green paper that I got less than a mile, but then it had been born. I brought me the little thing, the Derma boy, back where I had been born. Had me the little phone thing back where I had been born. Little boy on the mother thing. He from around here now, from America now, but he would have been born around here. He about the little Momo thing over around here. He had been born. I'm about to do, I'm about to do how we do that when we been born, boy. We been born right here. I'm about to do my little word where I have been born. I'm about to do my little thing with the phone thing where I have been born because I have been born back to the bone where I got the phone thing. I'm about to do me the boy one. I'm about to break this boy a little hot now when the thing turned green now because I got me the phone thing, man. I work for that damn boy. I'll work me for that damn boy. With the phone damn, what to do with the phone damn boy? The boy, what coming? That boy, see that one coming. Man, it they did like they did like green boy. I paid for that thing with the green boy. I paid with the green, but it's a little bit. It's the fair green now because I think got through a lot of people pocket now. It ain't as crisp and green as the light now, but I need me to turn that thing green now so I can do me what I want to do with the green thing, man. But I have been in front of this thing on thing back with my own mama, man. She used to work around her little yellow thing we had to do with the stick like that. I knew how me to work me that stick. Ain't nobody had taught me that because I got over it's about the way about a river now. My dad had told me how to dry that thing with the stick. But because my daddy is born from Africa now. From Africa now. I'm playing about Africa. He had been born in Africa now, and they knew how. And in Africa now, they drive it. They like the American thing now. Now African, hands down. You say what you want to say about America. About Africa, Africa, America can say what they want to say about Africa. Africa say what they about America. But you a real African when they respect America because you're real African. They respect America. They do African just like anybody. They respect what somebody do right. America, they do a lot of things right. Your boy Africa, your man in Africa, your grown man in Africa, your boy that grown up under the grown man in Africa, they like things that got made right. They got things that got done right. They like the third thing what they do about the America. So in America, my dad had grown up sturdy around him, some Chevy, some deal thing with the stick shit. Because back in the day, back in the 70s now, they have not money be buying the fine shit. They got the transmission get a person killed back there. Transmission to get you killed. Now you try to buy some transmission. That shit don't work now. But at least it had been parked when that shit don't work. You get your ass in a lot of trouble now. You up under some tower times now. But that shit don't work. You know that shit ain't work, but it's going slow enough. You get up out there. Back in the day now, you imagine you going up over on the road and that transmission playing around. You get in a lot of trouble with that shit. So back in the day, they had mess with the transmission. They had the stick thing back then. Now, because my daddy grew up studying around the stick shit that I had been born now in America now, because I had been born in America. My daddy had showed me how to get up and down with stick shift in one lesson. Now he put me in there. Now he said, "This is what you do with the stick. Saying how you doing this thing, and I need you to get me down the stove, and it needs you to figure out how to get to the stove and bring me back what I need from the stove. Now, can you do that with the stick? Now you can do it." And he also cussed the boy out because the boy was getting a little bit hard time. How we was living the now. We need to learn how to do the thick thing now. Now we didn't put had a problem with that. But my dad had said that this is my boy now. He about to drive the thick today. Hey, nothing you gotta say to do, bro, because he done him nothing wrong now. He got him a permit now, and I got me a light now, and we ain't fuck with you now, and we ain't fuck with you now. So you need to get off my face now. Before I had to fuck with you, I had to fuck with you. I need to get off on my face now. And my boy about to go down the door and about to give me something on the 60 thing now. So I went down 60 now. I forgot that how you turn the 60 on now. It ain't the same way to turn something on because you had to put your foot on the clutch to get the thing on now. When you get in the clutch on your first day, it don't matter your first day, last day driving the thing, you just sit there and put your foot on the clutch. So I knew how to get me up and down in me a stick shift since my dad had sent me on that errand. I made a lot of money delivering the piece of the thing in the middle of the night, all putting down the sheet, all up all different directions that you can say now. North, east, south, west, north, east, south, west, north, east, south, west. Your four directions now, four directions now. I got me money now. Doing work now in the thing with the signature thing now, so I knew how to work with the thing now. But as the season go, that thing had been yellow, so I was up and down that same block right there with the thing yellow. Get my mama and nice old lady right in the yellow thing now, and sometimes I do things a little bit quicker than the other boy, and it had light had turned yellow. I was in the yellow thing. I slowed down in the yellow thing. That boy almost bumped my bumper. He swerved around. He was impressed with himself that he wasn't good enough to slow down like he was supposed to do. The boy cussed me out, almost blew my head off in front of my mama and nice old lady now. But I looked my mom business. I looked straight. I look at the man. The man taught me now. The man. The light turned green. Man, he was scared now. I had made this thing stutter a little bit now. Things clutch went on me now. That drove right on down the road, and I went right on down the road my own way afterwards. But I had once at least got me in a lot of trouble in a little old yellow thing right here at this very light now in the yellow thing with the sister thing. But now I'm over phone way now. I save me a little paper now. I don't mess with the yellow things at the yellow lights with the people up on my bumper now. And now me and forward thing, I have been on me a Momo with the Holly boy now, but and they did it at a good price now. They gave me a little respect to give me the Holly thing now, but it wasn't built so right now because I know I'm not saying where that Holly had been built, but with the whole Harley boy. I'm not saying we had built the thing, but I'm saying that the thing didn't all the way went all the way good to go to work, right? So but sometimes so it can be good to go, but when this light here turn green, I'm about to do the boy one with the phone thing that had got with the green paper thing, and that's what the foreign thing is about with the foreign. Um, but damn, I lost what I was talking with that. But um, I was wanting to talk about like German engineering and with the foreign, but I completely lost my train of thought before I had a moment. I'm sorry, I had a moment. You know, sometimes I can have a moment when I'm talking, and I forget where I came from and where I'm at. So I had forgot that I was actually born in the north and shit, and I forgot where I came from, and I forgot that I'm also in the north, and sometimes they don't appreciate different things, and this can be broadcast anywhere. But I had actually been born in the north that whole time. I got different training in different areas, but I had been born in the north. And but the best things that you do, they go beyond your training. So I had spent time in the south. I had went to school in the south, and I had been trained in the south, but I hadn't been trained to explain the difference between foreign and domestic cars in the south necessarily. And I'm now in the north, and the people wouldn't remember I'm from the north or appreciate me in the north being had once been from the south, and while being in the north, and thinking to be from the south while being had been coming from the north and still in the north. But I just wanted to say that sometimes the difference between foreign and exotic stuff is like that. But damn, I'm a little bit. I had way more that I want to talk about today. But and I've been holding it. I got to use the bathroom. One certain thing about training is that you use the restroom when it's most convenient. But I feel like something's about to pop in my belly, like from not from like holding. Just that I gotta I don't want something to pop and then it don't pop back right. So I'm a duck out of here to use the restroom. But I got way more ideas that I want to talk about, and that's probably why I didn't get to talk about because the more ideas you got, the more people don't care about what you got to say. Yeah, you got a lot of nice ideas, but can you show up to work on time? So I'm gonna dip out with this. I hope this could be of value to someone, and then I'm gonna watch this back and try to remember what the hell I was talking about, and then do another another rehash to go forward like that. The best one is the rehash, right one. So you forgot about that little. So you want so this is I don't want to give anyone ideas for about anything that could get them hurt and that you wouldn't want to do at home or in life. But it's funny because like they legalized something green like 10 12 years ago in Colorado. And they were interviewing some people from Colorado. I don't know. It's actually interesting the distinctions and what's actually been legalized to this point because they say that they legalize ganja, right? And so, but you still can't get your hands on the flower, like the actual real, the real ganja flower. You can't get your hands on that in the city limits in with the state where I'm in. You have to get over to the reservation to do that. In the city, you can get like the edible stuff, and it's curated like that, and it's actually appropriate the way that they do it because my experience like with the stuff that's legal and edible and over the counter is that it doesn't get your ass as scared as you can get your ass scared like in different times. But still the flower is not available in city limits. But then, so we know that that the ganja has been legalized. The flower is ostensibly legalized and available, but it's not. This the flower is legal, but it's not necessarily available. It's not easily available. The edibles are legal and easily available. Now, some of the edibles they're enhanced. Like you have like 50 of something. You have anywhere from 5 to 10 to 50 of something in one go. The 50 of something in one go. I'm not sure how that contrasts with your traditional with your traditional ganja, but that would seem like a little bit of an enhancement and of a potency like that. With the 50 milligram in one go like that. But in when that stuff had first got legalized in Colorado, I was watching some documentaries about it. I was kind of fiending. I watched so many documentaries about. There would be like these different documentaries about because see some things that are regular to you now they weren't regular when they started. So like in the early like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when you were seeing people in Colorado, you got like these street people at a fair where this stuff is above board and they're just passing around ganja above board in front of the boys and stuff like that. And instead of the good old the instead of the good they're passing around ganja in front of the good old boys and none of you boys can say about it because it's not legal now. It's above board, and they're like, "Holy shit, this stuff is legal." So this dude is walking around a ganja fair with a camcorder, and he can't stop puffing on people's legal stuff because he's like, "Hey man, try this," and he can't get enough of it being legal. It's not that ganja is the coolest thing in the world, or that he thought it was the coolest thing in the world. But it being legal was near about the coolest thing in the world for that person. So he was way overdoing it at this fair, like walking around. And I was kind of, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of getting off on that shit because I was like, I just was, and I kind of think about going to Colorado lately. Huh, what does that be like in Colorado? I was a little bit more. I was vicariously watching that documentary more than you would vicariously watching something that you would turn on at night that might not be the best thing for you. But it was so half-assed and candid that the camera was jerking around that whole time while they were walking around, and I actually started to feel like I was under the influence of something based on how much that camera was jerking around. If you watch a documentary where the camera's jerking around, it can be as unsettling, worse than actually getting your hands on something green that because it's like motion sickness. Your body follows your eyes. Your body follows after your eyes but you forget your eyes vibrate. They say hand-eye coordination is no, it's all that's vibration coordination. So your eyes can ascertain something because they actually on a level your eyes are a window to the soul. What is the soul but vibration? When you look at something, you vibrate the way that that thing vibrates, such as that you're cognizant of it. So you become what you look at. You are what you look at, but also what you look at is vibrating is why you can perceive it, and you are vibrating as it, which is why you can perceive it. So your whole existence is vibrating way deeper than you can appreciate, especially when you look at things. So when but so such as that if you look at a camera, that's actually real motion sickness by looking at shit. I felt something bubble. I hope that shit can go back to normal. But when you look at something, motion sick can be some things of illness can be. I'll be one to say that something of illness can be conveyed over a camera. You may have seen something of illness when I was going getting on my little stick right there, but that's comical like that. That's a comical form of illness. But the but some things can be conveyed over ideas can be conveyed over camera, but actually motion sickness can be conveyed over camera. I'll be one to say that because the visualizing is real. What you see, you are. If you're looking at something unsteady, you are unsteady. So that was like that. But back then they would talk about hash, like they were talking about like different ways of what's called hashish or like condensed ganja. And I don't know what then and now is legal of hash, but I would imagine if you really wanted to get jacked up, what would get jacked up even more than hash is rehashed hash the next morning. How about that one? So I'm gonna come back on this channel later with some hashed statements. Hashtag rehash hash shit statements. Haha. Peace.